Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has dragon weapon chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Dragon Master Naruto 003 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Wait up, Naru-chan. A small boy of 13 shifted in his bed at the sound of the voice. Hear it, Naru-chan. Catch me if you can. Sweat covered his blonde forehead. No fair, Naruto. The boy shifted again, his breathing picking up. This is so much fun, Naru-chan. The boy kicked his sheets off his body, showing his naked chest with strange markings on the boy's stomach. You're leaving, Naru-chan. Tears escaped the boy's closed eyes, creating a river over the whisker marks he had, 3 on each cheek. Look out. The boy whimpered. Run, Naruto-kun. Another whimper, this more of a small sob. I'm so sorry Naru-kun, I'm sorry. The boy's eyes snapped open with a cry, showing his beautiful blue eyes as he got himself under control, tears still leaking from his eyes. That voice again. The boy wondered to himself as he used his arm to wipe the tears away. Ever since I became a ninja, I've been hearing that same voice whenever I sleep. No visions, just a voice. Naruto sighed and stood up. Guess I better get a start on my day. Don't want Sakura-chan to break my door down again. Naruto walked to his bathroom and started his shower. I hope we get something better than chasing that cat again. I want something more. Like a C-ranked mission or something. Half an hour later of thoughts, the boy got out of his shower and dressed into his orange jumpsuit and ninja gear again with a scowl. I hate this thing. The only reason I wear it is because I can't afford anything else. The teen walked into his kitchen and looked into his fridge, frowning at the empty space. He went over to the cupboard and opened it, growling at the sight before him. Ramen. Nothing but ramen. When was the last time I actually had a good meal? Oh yeah, when I was 8 and had just joined the academy. The only food I can afford. How I survived, only I can guess. The blonde pulled a cup of ramen off the shelf and started the hot water. Stupid fox. I took all its blame for years. The blonde sighed and waited for his water to boil. He looked at his clock and groaned. Damn it, I got 10 minutes to get to my team's meeting grounds. Looks like I'm eating on the go. Once the water came to a boil, Naruto poured the water into his ramen cup and grabbed a pair of chopsticks before he headed for the door. He reached for the doorknob when it suddenly blew open and knocked him back from the force of the person on the other side. He collided with the wall, and his ramen cup flew through the air and spilled all over the floor. The boy rubbed his head and glared up at the doorway. Naruto. The boy inwardly growled as he put on a fake grin as a pink-haired girl walked into the room with a raven-haired boy behind her. Sakura-chan. Sasuke team. What are you doing here? I was just. Shut up. The pink-haired girl brought her fist down and glared at the boy with her emerald eyes as Sasuke looked around the very small apartment with a raised brow. Naruto lives here in this dump. You're late again, you idiot. Kakashi-sensei sent us to get you. Naruto blinked in confusion and looked at the clock on the wall. But Kakashi-sensei told us to meet at 7. It's 6:52. The girl growled. You idiot. Don't you know how to change your clocks? It's not 6, it's 9. We need to get going before we get in trouble for your tardiness. Kakashi has a mission already lined up for us and you better not make Sasuke-kun look bad again. The pink-haired girl turned and stomped out of the room with Sasuke rolling his eyes to her. Hurry, dope. I don't want to hear her whine the entire day. Naruto glared at his teammates back as they left and stood to his feet. He looked at the place of his fallen breakfast and growled. Damn it. Shadow clone jutsu. 3 exact copies of the teen appeared and he looked to it. Clean that up and fix the door. I guess you can clean up the rest of the house too. The 3 nodded and started to clean up as the boy started his way out of his apartment. Hurry up, Baka. Sakura shouted to the boy as he descended the steps. He put on his huge grin and hurried after them. The 3 of them walked across the village until they came to the bridge where they found a silver-haired man reading a book with his only visible eye leaning against the rail of bridge. Oh good, you made it just in time. The man looked up from his book with a single-eye smile. We have a number of things that need to be done today, so let's get to work. Hours passed and the group had done 3 missions that day. The first was putting up a fence for a local farmer where Naruto had gotten blamed for not doing any work, therefore getting a large amount of his pay split between Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura. The second mission was walking the dogs at the Inuzuka Animal Clinic where, once again, Naruto got blamed for injuring one of the dogs that already had a broken leg. Needless to say where his pay went even though Hana Inuzuka argued his case against the boy's employer. The last mission of his day was finding that damned cat Tora again. That was the only mission that he had gotten paid for. The boy hung his head as they walked out of the Hokage's tower with their mission payments for the day. He looked at the 75 ryo he had earned and crumpled it in his fist as Sakura turned to him with a sneer. See, that's what you get for slacking off, Naruto Baka. I hope you learned your lesson. Naruto flinched back at those words as the silver-haired Jonin just stared at his book. Alright team, same time, same place tomorrow. The man exploded into smoke as the girl turned to Sasuke. Want to go out with me, Sasuke-kun? Naruto didn't even bother to stay for the rest of the routine. He turned towards the Hokage monument and started walking. No. Sasuke walked away towards his compound as the girl frowned and started her own way home. Naruto reached the top of the monument and looked around the area before he pulled out a small scroll from his back pocket. He rolled it out and with a pinch of chakra, a bottle appeared where the kanji is. And Iruka thought I didn't listen to him. The boy rolled the scroll up and put it back in his pocket. He grabbed the bottle and walked to the middle of the first Hokage's head. He tore the seal off and took a large gulp of the sake. Once again, I've become the bane of Konoha. Yay me. He took another long drink when a voice entered his ears. What would she say if she saw you now? The boy just shrugged. Call me a moron and punch me in the face once again, just like she always does. I was talking about not the pink-haired banshee. Naruto laughed out loud. You don't even know the name of whoever you're talking about. You foolish boy. What happened to you? You used to be so full of life. No masks were in your life. Naruto frowned. Nothing happened to me, I just happened to keep living when I wish I were dead. The boy looked at the bottle in his hand. To the man who built the village hidden in the leaves. The boy tipped the bottle over and allowed sake to spill out onto the head before he moved on to Nidame's head. To the man who was an important part in building Konoha. He repeated his action and moved on to the third head. To an old man that can't even use his power properly. He spit on the man's head before moving to the last head. Finally, to a man that damned me to a life of hell intentionally without anyone to care for me whatsoever. Naruto slammed the rest of the sake back before throwing the bottle down to the ground where it broke. 2 out of 4 have my undying respect. You too can burn in hell. Naruto walked to the spot between the first and second Hokages and sat down, watching the sky light up with a brilliant sunset. Don't you remember who I am? Naruto snorted. My conscience. The little voice in the back of my head that tells me what's right and wrong. The only voice that will answer me fairly since the fox is probably laughing his tails off because his container is such a weak fool. So, you really don't remember me? The boy laughed coldly. Like I care if I remember or not. I have no choice. I need to wake you up. The boy blinked in confusion when a pain erupted in his head. He gripped the sides of his head and fell back with a silent scream until he blacked out. Forgive me, Naruto-kun. The boy woke up before a large cage and a sewer. He narrowed his eyes at the red glow coming from behind the bars and growled. Kyuubi. Correct, Kit. The massive fox came towards the cage bars and looked down to him. You have changed since that trip to. Naruto rolled his eyes. Trip to where? That's the second word you haven't been able to say. Kyuubi narrowed its eyes. Something must be stopping me from reminding you of your memories from. The old man must be behind this. Naruto shrugged. Oh well. Not like it would help me any. Now, what the fuck do you want? I was wallowing in self-pity before you pulled me here. The fox frowned. You don't remember anything about me, then? Naruto laughed. Remember you? I don't need to remember what you did to my life. I live it. The stares, the names, the hate, all of it. You ruined my life because of your attack. Kyuubi flinched back at the boy's words. I explained it to you before. It wasn't my fault. Naruto rolled his eyes. You did nothing of the sort. Naruto turned his back to the fox. Where's the damned exit? Your memories must be blocked. That has to be it. The boy turned back to the large Biju with an amused look. Your tricks aren't. I swear it. On all of my tales I swear something must be wrong with your memories. Naruto chuckled coldly. No, nothing wrong with my memories. Something wrong with you trying to escape. Naruto started to walk away. Please. Let me help you. Naruto froze and turned to the large fox with a glare. You've helped enough with making it hell. Then let me make it better. I can teach you. Naruto thought for a moment while a smirk formed on his lips. Oh? What can you teach me? Kyuubi grinned. Anything you are willing to learn. Medical jutsu, ninjutsu, everything. Naruto walked back towards the cage. And what exactly do you get out of it? Kyuubi frowned. To prove I'm telling the truth. Naruto nodded. Fine, what needs to be done? Kyuubi nodded. Just wake up. Hokage-sama, here is the peril report for the day. Iruka Yamino walked into the Hokage's office with a bundle of papers while the old man behind the desk looked up from the paperwork. Alright, Iruka, thank you. The Hokage took the paperwork and started looking through it. Lord Hokage, I best tell you that Naruto has once again gotten several pay deductions on 2 of the 3 missions he's done today. He only received payment for Tora again. The Hokage sighed and placed them down on the desk. He's been getting them for the last 2 months he's been a genin. It seems that I really do need to look into this now. This has gone on long enough. Iruka, please fetch Anbu's skull please. Iruka paled and nodded as he rushed to locate the second most feared Anbu in Konoha. 10 minutes later, a shimmer of light gave way to a man dressed in all black with a white skull mask. He had a midnight black katana strapped to his back and 2 black kunai holsters, one on each thigh. Around his waist was a black utility belt with 2 black weapon pouches and a black medical pouch. "You summoned me, Lord Hokage." The man's voice was a low growl. The Hokage nodded and held up bundle of papers, all with the name Naruto written on them. "These are the past 2 months of peril for Naruto Uzumaki. Look them over and tell me what you notice." The Anbu took the papers and started to look through them. These had deductions on all his missions except retrieving the Fire Lord's wife's cat. The most he ever made on those missions excluding the missing Tora missions was 75 Ryo altogether in one day. Someone is either lying or Kakashi's not doing his job of keeping Naruto in check. Sarutobi nodded. "That's the exact reason I called you here, Skull. I need you to tail Naruto's team for the next 2 days and see just what the hell is going on. I will not give his team the missing Tora mission for the next week. I want to see just what Kakashi is doing. You will be my eyes and ears." The man nodded. "If I find Kakashi or the employers guilty, Hokage-sama." The old man took a drag from his pipe. "Do nothing unless it's an emergency. I will start following Naruto right away, Hokage-sama." The man bowed and vanished from the room without a trace. The Hokage sighed and opened his desk drawer to pull out a single request form and stared at the name. "Maybe you were right, Dekuro. Maybe I shouldn't have placed Kakashi as the team sensei." Naruto stood before a tree in the forest that covered the surrounding cliff of the Hokage monument. He held his arms out to his side as he concentrated on the exercise Kyuubi had given him. He had to make a bunch of leaves float an inch above his skin for 1 full hour before he had to add another leaf to the bunch. "You're doing great, Naruto-kun. Have your clone add 2 more leaves. If you can hold this for 1 more hour, you'll have mastered the exercise and we'll move on to the next one after your missions tomorrow." "No, I'm going to keep training for the entire night. You wanted to help me so I'm putting you to use." Kyuubi frowned behind its cage as Naruto continued the exercise. "I don't want to hear that girl's voice again." Not tonight. Naruto continued his exercise for the next hour, neither him nor his demon aware of the pair of eyes watching him intently. Last I checked Naruto had no knowledge of chakra control exercises. At least, that's what Iruka reported to the Hokage and Kakashi after that. The Anbu relaxed in the tree as he watched the boy for a full hour. He watched Naruto sigh and the leaves drop to the ground. The boy crossed his arms as a faraway look entered his eyes. Is he thinking? No, he's talking to the fox. So, that means she's reawakened. Good, maybe that dumbest mistake the Hokage made will be fixed now. The Anbu looked to the sky and sighed silently. I wonder what they would say if they saw him now. "Get out of here. Go." Naruto's eyes snapped open as he shot up from his spot on the ground. The boy had fallen asleep from exhaustion with training himself how to tree walk. He groaned and rubbed his face. Again. But this was a different voice. "They're your suppressed memories trying to break free. Whatever is holding them back must be pretty strong to keep me from saying names or from you remembering them." Naruto snorted and stood to his feet. He looked to the sky and frowned. "I'm going to be late." "Oh well, not like Kakashi will be bothered by it." The boy started to walk away when he grunted from a headache. "What the? But I didn't clean the apartment. My clones did." Naruto blinked and looked back to the tree that had a bunch of slash marks from his kunai that reached only a fourth up the tree. He created a shadow clone and threw a kunai at the halfway point of the tallest tree he could find. "Do the tree walking exercise until you can reach the kunai and dispel yourself." The clone nodded and started the exercise while Naruto turned back towards the village and started to leave. "What are you doing?" "An experiment. The clones from yesterday had just dispelled themselves and I got their memories. I'm wondering if it will work for training as well." Kyuubi nodded and started to think. "That could become very handy if it works. You could create a massive amount of clones and learn techniques that would normally take days in just a day." Naruto nodded. "And with you sealed in me, the memories from each clone should be able to be filtered at a much less fatal rate since you heal all of my injuries. Therefore, if the theory works, I'll be able to have my clones work on more than one thing at a time." Naruto came out of the forest to the top of the Hokage monument. He narrowed his eyes down at the village. "I wish I didn't live in the village. The forest is much nicer than the rat hole I live in." "Well, I think I might know a way to remedy that. But I would have to check to see if you have the bloodline to do it. If not, I guess you'll have to build it from scratch." Naruto rose a brow as he walked his way down the steps that led up to the top of the mountain. "Bloodline? Which bloodline?" "The bloodline of the Shodaime Hokage. The wood manipulation Kekai Genkai. There is a jutsu that allows you to create a house made of adamantine wood. The wood is just as strong as its brother adamantium ore, which just so happens to be the strongest metal in existence. The more chakra you use in the building of the house, the bigger and stronger the house would become. If adamantine isn't your style, then you could always learn to use the 4-pillar house jutsu, another wood jutsu." Naruto nodded as he walked through the streets of the village towards his team's hangout. "Let me guess, you need me to do something before you check my DNA out, right?" Kyuubi shifted a bit and nodded. "Yes. I need you to tear off 1/4 of the seal. Doing so will allow me to roam your mind and let me see if you do have any bloodlines. In exchange, your senses will become stronger, your chakra control will level out a bit, but you will have to start over from scratch. You will also gain an increase in your current regeneration abilities, and you will gain the ability to use one tail of my chakra until you train and get stronger with it. Naruto thought about it with a smirk. What exactly do you get out of this? The fox frowned. I get to feel the outside world again. Naruto shrugged his shoulders as he walked onto the bridge his team usually hung out at, finding no one there. Am I late or early? Naruto wondered to himself as he looked around. He sighed, not spotting anyone, and walked over to where the tree was. He sat down under it and frowned. What should I do while I'm waiting? You could come in and take care of the seal. The response came out from the fox in the form of a question, and Naruto nodded. That could work. After that clone dispels my theory, we'll have an answer, and then, since you said we would have to start from scratch, I can make 1,000 of them and have them split into tree walking and leaf floating. Is there anything I should know beforehand about the stronger senses? Well, the main ones that will be affected will be your sight, smell and hearing. Your taste and touch won't change too much, but the other 3 will be very strong. It'll take you a half hour to get used to all 3 of them together, and they'll hurt a bit, but you'll be fine. Naruto nodded and closed his eyes, feeling himself get drawn into the seal. He walked up to the seal and took hold of it before he carefully tore 1/4 of the seal away. There, it's done. Naruto faded from the mind space as a teenage girl walked out from behind the bars of the cage with 9 long red tails. She stood the height of a normal 21-year-old with long blood-red hair that reached her mid-back and 2 fox ears hidden atop her head. Her blood-red eyes gazed at the spot Naruto once stood as a frown graced her whiskered face. She wore a simple red kimono that had a beautiful flower design with a green sash around her waist. Oh, Naruto-kun. If only I could do more for you. Naruto opened his eyes only to squeeze them shut again in pain. He slowly opened them back up, blinking a few times to try and focus them only for everything to come in a bit blurry. The sound of footsteps reached his ears and he clapped his hands over his ears in pain at the thunderous noise. What's with you, dope? Sasuke asked as he walked across the bridge to where Naruto was sitting with his ears covered and gritting his teeth in pain. Sakura, who was behind him, just scoffed and pointed at the boy with an amused look. Probably did something stupid again. I'll bet he ate something bad without thinking like he always does. Naruto glared up at her, his blue eyes coming into complete focus. He growled and stood to his feet. No, I was just experimenting with something and channeled chakra to my ears. When I heard you 2 coming across the bridge, it was so loud I thought I was right next to a bomb. Sakura glared and walked up to the boy. You idiot. Are you calling me loud? The pink-haired girl punched the boy in the face and sent him flying into the tree, a pair of eyes narrowing at the side as he watched from a nearby tree. Like you could have thought of something that basic, dope. If you would have paid attention to Iruka, then you would know how to do it properly without hurting yourself. Sasuke spouted as he leaned against the rail of the bridge while Naruto sat up and rubbed the bump on his head from impact with the tree. You're so right, Sasuke-kun. Even I know how to do it. The Anbu in the trees narrowed his eyes at the group. Academy dead last, rookie of the year with a stick up his ass and a Haruno fangirl. What the hell were you thinking when you put this team together, Hokage-sama? Skull thought to himself as he watched the 3 for another hour. During the hour of waiting, he watched as Sakura asked the Uchiha out on a date every 5 minutes, only for the boy to reject her, and for Naruto to jump in and ask her out only for her to punch him in the face again. Okay, Kakashi is being his usual tardy self. I see, as it's been an hour since the 3 of them got here. The Uchiha is cold and, if my guess is right, doesn't do teamwork just like the rest of his clan except Itachi before he turned nuts. The Haruno is a fangirl that, if my guess is correct about her, has little to no training at all besides the academy and book smarts. There is also the possibility, however, that Kakashi has been teaching her genjutsu due to the low amount of chakra she has, from what I can feel. From as far as I can tell about Naruto, he's had no training from either Kakashi or the academy, only the things that he was self-taught. Kakashi is not doing his job then. Tree walking is the first thing all the Jonin should teach their students before taking any C-ranked missions. If this team somehow gets a C-ranked mission, then they will be in more trouble than properly trained academy students. Hell, it was academy regulation to be able to do the leaf floating exercise, henge, substitution, clone and 1 elemental jutsu before you graduate. I will need to report this to the Sandaime as soon as my mission ends tomorrow. It was 2 hours later from the time that Naruto arrived at the training grounds that Kakashi appeared in his usual fashion. Sorry I'm late. A black cat was crossing my path and I had to take the long way around to avoid bad luck when a dog was chasing a cat up a tree. Liar. Sakura yelled out as Naruto rolled his eyes. Kakashi gave them the usual eye smile. Okay, team, today we have 2 missions and then we'll do some training. The group nodded and followed the man to the Hokage tower as he pulled out his book. Skull followed the group unnoticed all the way into the mission office at the tower and then to the mission site. They arrived at a nearby shop where an old man awaited and Skull narrowed his eyes at the glare the old man sent at Naruto. "So, Kakashi-san, you're here to take care of my mission request, eh?" Kakashi nodded, not taking his gaze from his book. "Alright then. Haruno-san, Uchiha-sama, boy, your mission is to take all the boxes off this cart here and take them around to the storage room in the back. If any of the box's contents are damaged, it's coming out of that person's pay." The group nodded as the man pointed to the door in the alley next to his shop. "That door there leads to the storage room and has already been unlocked. I'll sort out the stuff myself, just put all the boxes in there." The man moved away from the cart and looked to Kakashi. "Alright team, let's get started." Kakashi leaned against the wall as Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke walked up and started to unload the cart and take the boxes to the storage room, with the old man watching the three. An hour later and 30 heavy boxes later, the final box was put away into the storage and the three students met up with their teacher. "Great job Haruno-san, Uchiha-sama. You did very well. You, boy, did very poorly. You hardly even did any of the work and made your teammates do it for you. You're not getting a cent out of this payment." The man handed the money the mission was worth to Kakashi. "Kakashi-san, go ahead and split the payment between the three of you. I thank you for your team's assistance in helping me with my new shipment while my daughter was away on a mission." Kakashi smiled and nodded. "You're welcome, sir. It was our pleasure." Kakashi and his team, along with a hidden fuming Skull Anbu, left back for the tower. The entire way Skull was trying to not release his killing intent to Kakashi or the old man. Skull followed them on to their next mission, which happened to be at the local park near the northern gates. The mission was to help the lady who ran the orphanage watch over the kids as they played in the park. The lady said they were staying at the park until 3 and then they could leave. Skull watched the entire mission go smoothly. The really young kids took to Naruto like glue and the lady didn't like that. When 3 in the afternoon came around, the lady gave the mission payment to Kakashi with a complaint of her own about Naruto. "That brat wasn't even doing his job. He slept on the sidelines while your other 2 students did all the work. I recommend some disciplinary action, Haddock-sama. He gets no pay for being lazy." Kakashi nodded absent-mindedly and took the mission payment. They headed back to the Hokage tower to get their payment for the day. The lady at the desk sneered at the boy as she took the mission payment from Kakashi. "Would you like another mission, Haddock-sama?" Kakashi shook his head with an eye smile. "No, we're done for the day. Any complaints from the employers should be included with the mission reports." The lady nodded and pulled out the first mission's report and then took the second mission report. "So, he's still screwing up, I see. Kakashi-sama, I wish you would do something about that boy. He's gotten complaints on all his missions thus far. I would suggest sending him back to the academy." The lady shrugged as she pulled out several envelopes and started to place money inside them. "But that's just me. Anyway, here are you and your 2 students' payments and I'll see you tomorrow." Kakashi nodded and handed Sasuke and Sakura an envelope each. "Alright team, to the training ground. You have 5 minutes to get there. If you're late then I'll make you do laps until we stop." Kakashi popped into smoke and the 3 took off as quick as they could. Once the 3 had taken off, Skull vanished as well, heading straight for the training ground that he knew from the reports the Sandaime gave him was the team's training ground. 10 minutes after he arrived at the training grounds, the 3 genin arrived, all 3 out of breath, while Kakashi shook his head. "You're late, Naruto. Start running the lake." "Sakura, work on your gen jutsu from this scroll and Sasuke, I have a fire scroll for you." Skull growled loudly before he silenced himself and moved. Kakashi looked around with his one visible eye as Naruto growled and started walking away from the team. "Naruto, where are you going?" The boy looked over his shoulder with a glare. "To find someone that will actually put time into training Naruto Uzumaki, not the demon you and the rest of this damned village see me as." Sasuke rose a brow as Sakura walked up to the boy while cracking her knuckles. "Apologize to Kakashi-sensei, you baka." At that moment something inside Naruto snapped. Naruto growled and caught the fist the girl threw at him and started to add pressure. "No, you pink-haired bitch." With one powerful squeeze on the girl's fist, her screams of pain filling the air. Naruto then took hold of the rest of her arm as her screams caused Kakashi to narrow his eye and rush at the boy. Naruto turned and tossed Sakura into the lake and looked to Kakashi. "You want me, find me." Thousands of clones filled the training grounds with a single seal, and Kakashi cursed as Naruto ran off towards the village while the clones blocked his path. Kakashi started to cut down the clones, not seeing the blonde boy escape. He continued to cut them down until one was left and it exploded with a smirk. Skull chose this moment to drop out of the tree and walk towards the silver-haired jonin that turned to him. "You fucked up big time, Haddock." The silver-haired man paled as Skull glared at him through his mask. "I don't think I'll need tomorrow to assess your jonin sensei status." Kakashi Haddock, Jonin sensei of Team 7, as of right now, you are removed from your duties as a sensei until the Hokage determines your fate. Get your student out of the lake and take her to the hospital. You will all report to the Hokage office first thing in the morning or risk immediate imprisonment. Skull vanished from the field as Kakashi looked to the lake and saw Sakura struggling to reach the shore. Skull walked into the Hokage's office unannounced and glared at the two people that sat before the man. Sarutobi rose a brow and looked to the man. Can I help you, Skull? Mission is complete ahead of schedule. The Hokage nodded with a raised brow. Kimura, Kaharu, I will speak with you later. Please leave. The two rose a brow and left the room. The old man watched as the Anbu clenched and unclenched his fist. Report. Team 7 is a complete disgrace to our shinobi ranks. I found Naruto Uzumaki yesterday and started to watch over him as you had asked. Once the day had started I tailed him to his training grounds where shortly after Naruto arrived, Haruno and Uchiha arrived. An argument started about Naruto experimenting with enhancing his senses with chakra. Haruno is a violent Uchiha-obsessed fangirl as she had punched Naruto in the face twice. 2 hours the team waited for Kakashi and the entire time Uchiha ignored his teammates while Haruno continued to ask the boy out. Naruto, however, learned from the first 2 punches and sat away from the 2 with a headache from both punches and his experiment. 2 hours after Naruto's arrival to the meeting area, Kakashi arrived where he gave a lame excuse and took his team out on 2 missions. The first mission was from Saizo Hattori, owner of the weapon shop, the Blue Claw. He addressed the team by first name for Kakashi, last name for Haruno and Uchiha, and called Naruto, boy. The mission was to take the man's new shipment into the storage room and they did exactly that. Kakashi, however, leaned against a wall and read his book all the while Saizo watched the 3 genin. Once Naruto took the final box to the storage room and returned, the old man praised the other 3 while he scolded Naruto for doing little to no work and was given no pay. Kakashi didn't argue with the man and reported the mission in before taking another. Their second mission for the day was helping the orphanage caretaker watch the kids while her staff were cleaning the orphanage up. The caretaker took the kids to the park and there, Team 7 was to watch over and protect the kids from harm. Naruto became popular with the younger kids while Haruno and Uchiha just watched over them and Haddock once again stood on the sidelines reading his book without a care. Naruto played with the younger kids until the caretaker called the mission to a close. She complained that Naruto didn't do anything but sleep while Haruno and Uchiha did all the work. Kakashi said nothing and took the team back to the tower to report the mission and once again, Naruto was given no pay for the mission. I then followed Kakashi to the Team 7 training grounds and waited. He had given his team a 5-minute time limit to get there or risk running the lake until he said so. The team arrived 5 minutes late and Kakashi gave the punishment to Naruto but not to the other 2. He offered Haruno a Genjutsu scroll while he offered the Uchiha a fire jutsu. Naruto started to leave and when Kakashi asked him where he was going, he replied that he was going to find someone to train him that doesn't see him as the demon he has sealed inside him. Haruno walked up to him, ready to punch him once again demanding he apologize to Kakashi and he snapped. When the Haruno threw the punch he grabbed her by the fist and crushed her hand before tossing her into the lake. He created what must have been thousands of clones before he sneaked off towards the village. The Uchiha did nothing but watch as his sensei cut down all the clones and then I appeared. I told him he was suspended from his Jonin duties until you decide what to do with him and reported here. Sarutobi covered his face with his hands. So not even Kakashi can't see past the death of his sensei. Skull, go to the mission office and tell Iruka that you completed your mission. He'll know what I'm talking about and give you your payment. I'll deal with Team 7 in the morning. The Anbu nodded and started to walk out of the room. Also, Skull, please have Dekuro report to my office first thing in the morning. I may have a way to test Kakashi and his team to see just how much of a team they really are. Tell Dekuro to prepare for a C-ranked mission to Wave Country. Skull nodded and left the office. The boy could use some pointers. I'll see to him now. Skull walked down the halls to the mission payment office and collected his payment from Iruka and vanished, heading for the area where he last saw Naruto training the night before. Naruto walked onto his training grounds to see his clone nowhere in sight. Sighing, he walked to the tree. Here goes nothing. Wait, Naruto-kun. Remember what I told you? You'll have to start from scratch. Try making 50 clones and cut them down to half for tree walking and leaf floating. Meanwhile, you are going to have to do some physical training yourself. A ninja is nothing with only jutsu and chakra control. Naruto nodded and created the clones. I see you've figured out the secret to the shadow clone jutsu, Uzumaki-san. Naruto spun on his heel and found himself glaring into the mask of an Anbu. Skull looked to the clones and then to the boy. Allow them to start their work. I'm going to give you some help. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Why should I trust you? Skull shook his head. I don't have a reason for you to trust me. But, I am being honest when I say I want to help you. Naruto nodded and allowed his clones to start their training. Follow me. The first thing we're going to do is get you some proper clothes and equipment. It'll be on me." Naruto watched the man turn his back and start to walk away from the clearing. "Trust him, Naruto-kun. I know I haven't trained you in smelling out lies, but I can tell he's not lying. Go with him." Naruto nodded and followed the man. "Did you find anything on that bloodline you told me about?" Naruto asked the vixen, causing her to swear. "Damn, thanks for reminding me. I'll look into it now." The Anbu and Naruto stayed quiet the entire way to a hidden warehouse on the far side of the village. The Anbu looked around, seeing no one watching and turned to Naruto. "What do you see?" Naruto looked at the building and frowned. "The old, abandoned warehouse that looks like a feather can make it fall." Skull nodded. "That's what normal people and weaker shinobi would see. However, what they don't know is that there is a genjutsu covering the building to make it look like a warehouse when it is in fact an all-ninja store. My friend owns the place. Now, let's go in and get you some proper gear." Naruto nodded and watched as the Anbu walked into the warehouse with the boy closely behind him. "Tsukyun. Do you hear?" The Anbu called into the shop and was answered back. Yeah, keep your mask on, Anbu-san." A man walked out of the back room and looked to the two. The man was old and had a long scar going through his left eye, while his other was a bright blue and had short white hair. "Ah, Skull, good to see you as always. Who's the brat?" Naruto glared at the man while Skull looked to the boy. "Go find some new clothing." Naruto nodded and walked off towards the clothing section of the store while Skull walked to the counter. "You know who the boy is, Tsukyun?" The man scoffed, his one good blue eye rolling. "Of course I know him, now that I look at him." The Sandaime finally gave in to Dakuro's request, then. Skull shook his head. "No. I followed his team around for the entire day and let's say the village has fallen far since the attack." The man nodded, cleaning his soot-covered hands with a white rag. "I see. Well, I guess the second best shop in town hates him, right?" Skull nodded. "I see. Then he's welcome here. I'm not going to let anyone push me around like they did while I lived in. You know the law." Skull growled and the man sighed. "Damned Hokage. Hey, Anbu, I found some." The two turned to the boy and saw that he had grabbed everything in crimson red and some black. "Why red?" Naruto ignored the old man and placed the clothes onto the counter. "Now what?" Skull shook his head. "Go and gather whatever weaponry you find you might need. Once you have, bring it to the counter and then go over to the jutsu and book section to gather what you feel like learning." Naruto nodded and walked off into the shop. "Little brat." Tsukyun muttered under his breath as he looked to the clothes. "Looks like he's gotten enough clothes to last him for a few days. Help me sort this out, Skull." The Anbu nodded his head and started to help the man take the clothes and put them in neat piles. Naruto had picked out 5 pairs of black cargo pants, 5 crimson-red undershirts, a pair of black gauntlets, a pair of black boots, a red cloak with a hood, and a black jonin-style vest. The boy had also gotten a plain black Anbu utility belt. Not a bad choice in the gauntlet since they got those chakra-reacting blades hidden in them. The belt will be useful if he grabs a few weapon and medical pouches. Skull nodded as Naruto came back with a few clones holding several different things from the weapon section of the store. They put everything on the counter before heading towards the next section of the store. "You do know that you might not have enough to pay for all of this, right?" Skull grinned evilly under his mask. "Bill the Hokage." Tsukyun laughed and nodded. "Oh, what a fine idea. That'll teach him a lesson for what he's done to the poor lad." Skull nodded with a cold chuckle. "Now help me with these." The men started to sort out the many weapons the boy had grabbed, one of which was a long sword with a golden handle in the shape of a dragon's head. Tsukyun picked the sword up and looked at it confusingly. "That's strange, I don't remember this being in my inventory." Skull rose a brow as he looked at the sheath. The sheath was a gunmetal gray with 5 different colored dragon heads engraved into it. From the tip of the sheath it went white, blue, black, red and green. Strange indeed. So this is where it ended up. The old man shrugged it off and set the sword down on the counter before sorting through the rest of the weapons. The boy had picked out new kunai, shuriken, some senbon, a few windmill shuriken, a lot of exploding tags, 2 crimson red weapon pouches, 2 crimson red kunai holsters, 2 medical pouches of the same color, a set of chakra weights, and a bunch of blank sealing scrolls. "The kid looks like he's preparing for a war." Tsukyun shrugged. "Not my problem." Naruto and his clones came back seconds later with armfuls of books and scrolls on various subjects. "Do you have anything on sealing, elemental manipulation and creating your own jutsu?" Tsukyun looked to Skull and watched the man nod. "Sure, it's in the back room. Let me sort this stuff out first and then I'll take you back there. Why don't you take a look around the store another time and see if you find anything you might like." Naruto nodded and walked away, while Tsukyun looked to the pile of scrolls and books that covered the rest of his counter in a giant pigsty. "Alright, let's sort these out, then I'll start ringing up the bill for the Hokage." The man grinned as he started to sort the scrolls into piles of what they taught. The man picked up a scroll and looked at it curiously before raising a brow at it. Huh, another item I don't remember being in the inventory. Skull looked up and read the title of the scroll. Style of the Five Dragons. Never heard of it. Skull lifted his scroll and rose a brow. Kenjutsu style. 5 dragons. What's with all the dragon stuff? Sukyun shook his head. Okay, anything with the word dragon on it, place it in this pile next to the longsword. The two started a pile with the 2 scrolls that soon grew with the addition of 6 scrolls by the time the 2 had finished. Okay, so we have those dragon scrolls and the longsword that he'll get on the house, since I can sell anything I don't have in the inventory list. There are 10 ninjutsu scrolls, 10 genjutsu scrolls, 5 medical jutsu scrolls, books on hunting, skinning, a few medical books, a book on poisons, a few cookbooks, a map of the world, and 1 map for each country that has a hidden village. Okay, maybe the kid is preparing for war. Skull shook his head as Naruto came back with 2 more books. The man took them and placed them on the counter. Alright, kid, I'll show you to the back room. Sukyun walked around the counter and led the 2 towards the back room. The room was large with many shelves and tables, while the weapon forge area was in the far corner of the room away from everything else. Alright, the ceiling scrolls, I normally don't let anyone buy the ceiling scrolls unless they're chunin or higher. However, in your case, I think I can part with a few of them. Wait, I thought this was for Anbu, chunin and jonin only. Naruto asked as Skull and Sukyun chuckled. Yes, normally people would think that. However, that's not true. My policy is those that can sense and break the genjutsu are allowed to shop here. Most of my customers are, as you said, Anbu, chunin and jonin, as no one is usually trained well enough during their genin years to sense a genjutsu as strong as mine, unless they've got a knack for genjutsu like Kurana Yuhi did when she was only an academy student. Since you were brought in by Skull here, the genjutsu will no longer have a hold on you, so you'll be able to come and go as you please. Now, take a look around and if you find anything you think you would like, take it off the shelf and we'll take it to the counter once you're set. Naruto nodded and started to look around. Sukyun looked at Skull with a raised brow. I wonder what he would want jutsu creation info for. He couldn't be that strong yet. Skull shook his head. I don't know either. It might be from having such a large amount of chakra that he can't use very many low-level jutsu. I know he's never been able to do a regular clone jutsu due to that very problem, so maybe he thought he could make his own jutsu. I believe it'll be a bonus if he has the fox helping him with the creation or even the learning of jutsu. The man nodded as Naruto came back with several books and scrolls in his arms. Alright, let's go seal everything up and send you on your way. The group of 3 headed back into the main part of the store and Naruto watched a man take everything and seal it up into several scrolls before sealing it all in one the size of the forbidden scroll. Now, I need to know, where did you find those scrolls on Dragon Jutsu and that longsword? Naruto shrugged. They were each in their own sections where the longsword was sitting on one of the weapon racks. I see. None of them are in my inventory, so I have no idea how they got mixed in there. Maybe I can ask my daughter Tenten when she comes home from training today. Anyway kid, you're all set. I hope to see you again the next time you need weapons or jutsu. Naruto nodded and turned to Skull. What next? For now, this is all I can offer. I'll be able to offer you more when we have more time. For now however, you should head back to your little training ground and see just how far your clones have gotten. Also, prepare yourself for a C-ranked mission to Wave Country. You're meeting your team at the Hokage's office first thing in the morning. Naruto nodded taking his scroll and heading for the door. He paused and looked over his shoulder. I don't trust either of you but thank you. Naruto walked out of the shop and headed for his small training area. I see he has trust issues. Skull nodded. But the way his life has turned out, what did you expect? Naruto-kun, I have good news. Kyuubi happily called to the boy through their link as the boy made his way up to his training ground. And? You have the wood bloodline. Isn't that great? Kyuubi grinned to him as he nodded. Yeah it is. Now I need to learn the jutsu and seals that will help with utilities. Kyuubi grinned wider and her tail swished about. Actually, if you allow me, I can set up everything for you. All you need to do is allow me control of your body and I can set up everything to the way you would want it. Naruto frowned as he came to the training ground and looked to the entire group of clones that still worked on. I'll think about it. Now, should I dispel them all at once or in groups? Personally, I would do it in groups of 10. This way, the information doesn't hurt you. I hope. Naruto nodded and mentally started to dispel his clones by 10, grunting each time information and memories entered his mind. Now, why don't you give the tree walking a try and if you feel up to it, we can start water walking. Naruto nodded and started to walk to and then up a tree without even thinking of it. Got it down, bud. Now to master the tree walking exercise you will need to be able to jump from tree to tree and stick without even thinking of it while you're fighting. We'll work on that later. For now, try to find the nearest river by using your nose and ears. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes, concentrating on sound and smell. He heard the sound of rippling water in the distance and started walking towards it with his scroll strapped over his shoulder. He came out to a large lake that fed a nearby river. Good. You know, this would be a perfect place to make your new home. I mean, if I do it right, I can make it so your house is on both land and water, like right over there by the start of the river. If you want, I can create your home half on land and half on water. I like that idea. Okay, you win. I'll let you create the house and the seals needed for the utilities. But make sure it doesn't ruin the river or the lake. Kyuubi nodded excitedly and felt Naruto's control over his body slowly slip to her. Naruto closed his eyes and once they opened again, they were crimson red. Kyuubi used her control over the body to run down to the river's start and started to run through hand seals. Wood style. House of the Adamantine Forest Jutsu. Kyuubi slammed her palms to the ground and started to concentrate on the jutsu. First, nothing seemed to be happening when suddenly wood started to rise out of the water and started to form a house. The entire process took hours, and once it was finally finished, Kyuubi grinned tiredly at the house before her. Just like he wanted it before, the red eyes of the kitsune rolled back and she fell forward to the ground with a smile on the boy's face. Naruto-kun, Dad. I'm back. A brown-haired girl walked into Tsukyun's shop and the old man nodded. I can see that, Tenten. The girl grinned and rushed off towards the weapons section of the store. We've been robbed. The old man jumped at the sudden shout and ran to check on what his daughter was talking about. What do you mean, Tenten? The bun-haired girl turned and he saw the anger in her beautiful brown eyes. There was a sword back here that I had right here on the display case. It was a long sword with a gold handle in the shape of a dragon and its sheath had 5 different color dragons. Oh, I sold that already. Tenten looked at the man with wide eyes. Why you sold it as in someone bought it? Tsukyun nodded. Yeah. Why? Tenten's face grew furious. I wanted that sword. I was saving all my mission money for it. I was only one C-ranked mission away from getting what I thought it costs. Tsukyun blinked and shook his head. Honey, you should have brought the sword to me when you saw it. The sword isn't and was never in my inventory. I had no idea I had that sword until the kid that bought it brought it to me. Since I can't sell what I don't really have, I just gave it to him along with the scrolls he had brought up that had 5 dragons. Tsukyun nodded and the girl growled and stomped away. If I ever meet whoever you gave those items to, I'm going to skin them alive. I had my eye on those for 6 years since I started my ninja training. Tsukyun blinked in confusion as his daughter started for the stairs. I'm going to fight them for the right to have those items. Oh damn. I better not tell her it was Uzumaki that bought them. She already doesn't like him for the prank he pulled during their year of being in the same class. Haha, I still remember the rant of how unforgivable the prank he pulled on the Hyuga boy was. The old man shook his head and returned to closing up for the night. Sunlight hitting his face was the only thing Naruto needed to wake him from his sleep. The boy groaned as he got to his feet tiredly and looked to the home before him. This is fucking huge. The boy heard a groan in the back of his head. Naruto-kun, why are you yelling so loud? The fox rubbed her eyes as Naruto frowned and crossed his arms. You built this thing larger than needed. It must be able to fit an entire 3 families. Kyuubi blinked and looked out of Naruto's eyes at the house. Just as you wanted before all this. Well, you never told me how big you wanted it, so I used as much chakra as you and I could spare in making it. Think of it this way, only one of Tsunade's full-strength chakra punches will be able to even dent the door. Now, I suggest you hurry and head for the Hokage's office. I think it may be around 9 right now. Naruto sighed and turned towards the village. Damn, and I didn't even get to put my things away. Oh well. Naruto rushed towards the village, heading for the Hokage tower with his giant scroll strapped to his back. I wonder what that Anbu meant when he said to get ready for a C-ranked mission to wave. Kyuubi shrugged and laid back down. I don't know, but I'm going back to bed. After 5 minutes of non-stop jogging, Naruto reached the village and headed straight for the tower. He rushed up the steps to the Hokage's office and walked in, finding his team and the old man waiting for him. Sakura glared at him while holding her bandage-covered hand. You're late, you idiot. Naruto glared at the girl. Want me to break your other hand, Banshee? Sakura flinched back as Kakashi looked at Naruto with a bored look. Naruto, you really just should have taken your punishment and run the lake like I told you. You didn't have to defend himself from being assaulted by his fellow teammate. Everyone turned to the voice to see Skull coming from the shadows of the darkest corner. Kakashi visibly paled at the Anbu. SS Skull. Long time, Haddock. How's being a washout going for you? That's enough. The Hokage called out, taking a drag from his pipe. Kakashi, I will explain just what is going on once our 5th member. Sorry I'm late. I ran into Guy on the way here and had to take the long way around to avoid being challenged again. Everyone looked at the door to the office and in walked a man with long silver, gray hair, coal black eyes wearing a face mask over the lower half of his face. He wore the standard Jonin attire in all black, including the Jonin vest. Takuro Haddock, reporting as ordered, Hokage-sama. Chapter 2. Good, you've arrived, Dekuro. Kakashi frowned under his mask as the silver-haired man walked up to the group. Now, the reason I have called you all here is because of a few things really. The Hokage held up a bunch of papers. These are the mission reports for Team 7 since the very beginning of your official creation 2 months ago. Out of the 30 D-ranked missions that you have done, Naruto has only been getting paid for the missing Tora mission. The rest of the missions have given him reductions of no pay. Yesterday, I had Skull follow you, Kakashi and your team to see just what exactly is going on, and now, I see that even you cannot see past the death of your sensei. Skull has reported that not only did you not partake in helping your team with the missions, but also that you didn't watch over them to make sure they were doing their jobs. This led to you not challenging the employers about the complaints that Naruto had gotten on each mission outside of Tora the cat. Skull has also informed me of your so-called punishment to Naruto for arriving to your team training grounds 5 minutes late, along with both Sasuke and Sakura. You only punished him and decided to train Sasuke and Sakura while Naruto was to run laps around the lake. Tell me, Kakashi, what exactly have you taught Naruto outside of teamwork and your belief? Kakashi frowned. Naruto's chakra control is too. And yet when you could have taught me tree climbing, water walking or even the leaf floating techniques you pushed me to the side saying do chakra control, but not telling me what the fuck to do. Naruto interrupted the man. You told us that those who don't follow the rules are trash and that those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. I guess that didn't apply to me since I'm just the village demon. Kakashi flinched as Dekuro frowned and looked to the man with narrowed eyes. Nai-san, please tell me you actually taught him something. Naruto scoffed. Only that he's a pervert and wants to push the demon aside for the normal shinobi. I see. Then I suppose this is the best course of action. Kakashi Haddock, you and your team will be given a C-ranked escort mission to Wave in order to test how your team will handle the ninja world. Dekuro, you will accompany them and assist them in any way you can while evaluating Kakashi's Jonin Sensei capabilities. If, by your return, you find Kakashi to be unfit for Jonin Sensei duties, then Kakashi, you will be removed from the program and be put on probation with nothing but D-ranked missions until the chunin exams arrive. This is not up for debate and no one, not even the council will interfere with the aftermath of this mission. Do you all understand? Naruto, Dekuro and Kakashi nodded while Sasuke and Sakura just looked on confused. Good. Skull, please go retrieve Tazuna from the waiting room. Afterwards, you may return to your Anbu duties. The Anbu nodded and walked over to the side door. Minutes passed and no one said a word before the door opened again and in walked a man that had a bottle of sake in his hand. You're joking, right? This is the team you're sending to guard me? They're kids and the short one looks like a human kill me sign with all that orange. Naruto growled at the man as Kakashi shook his head. No need to worry. Dekuro and I are elite Jonin. It'll take a lot to take us down and all 3 of them are more than able to protect you. The old man shrugged as Dekuro nodded in agreement. Well then, let's head out. I don't want to be gone any more than I have already. The 2 Jonin nodded and turned to the Hokage. You have your mission. You will guard Tazuna here until the bridge he is building is completed and then you are to return. Dismissed. Everyone started to file out of the room as Kakashi called for the team to meet at the village gates in 1 hour before he vanished in a plume of smoke. Naruto took off the moment they exited the tower after Kakashi's announcement and headed for the nearest alleyway. He was walking down the alleyway when a hand grabbed his shoulder lightly. Hey. Naruto spun around in a hurry to see Skull emerging from the shadows. I heard Kakashi's 1-hour speech so I think I have something I can teach you real fast. Do you have any clones training yet? Naruto shook his head and the man nodded. Create 20 with as much chakra as you can give them and send them to a lake. Have them try to walk on water by using the same method as the tree climbing technique but sending their chakra out in waves and mess around with it. Naruto nodded and summoned up the clones, panting a bit after the clones were created and sent off. Good job, Uzumaki-san. I see your control has improved. Now, come with me. I'm going to introduce you to the ninja world's underground world, the criminal world. The hand on his shoulder tightened and everything blurred before Naruto for only a few seconds before he found himself standing in the middle of the street. Naruto looked around and growled at the district he was in. The red light district of Konoha. Are you fucking kidding me? Skull shook his head and started to walk towards one of the bars. No, now come on. Naruto shook his head and walked after the man. The bouncer at the bar door nodded to the Anbu and let the 2 in. Welcome, Uzumaki-san, to the Diamond Leaf. The man led him to the bar counter and took a seat. Naruto watched a man reach up and remove his mask and the black cover that kept his entire head covered. Naruto noticed that the man had long pale silver hair, pasty white skin, long pointed ears and cold red eyes with slit black pupils. Before you ask, I am Galeon. Do not allow anyone to know I am the Anbu Skull, as they all saw me under a genjutsu of my real face before we even arrived here. I allowed you to know only because of the way your life has panned out thus far. Also, the ears are from my family bloodline. Naruto frowned and looked around the bar, seeing a lot of people gambling, drinking and hitting on the pole dancers. So, what are we doing here then? Galen smirked as a drink was placed in front of him. Well, if you want to learn to be a true ninja, then you need to learn about the underground world of criminals. If you want information that you can't get in one place, look to the underground. Naruto nodded as Galen looked over his right shoulder with a smirk, showing longer than normal canines, and part of the left side of his face was a strange stone gray with cracks. Tell me, Uzumaki-san, do you know how to play poker? Naruto shook his head, and the man held out a large wad of cash. Here's 1,000 ryo. I want you to go over to the poker table and play until either I call you back or you run out of money. Tell them that you are new to the game and the dealer will teach you real fast on how to play. Naruto took the money and walked over to the table as the bartender walked up to the Anbu with a raised brow. Ain't he a bit young to be here, Galen-sama? The man shook his head. He's a ninja so he's an adult. Anyway, listen, I need you to get her for me. Tell her that I'm calling and that favor she owes me. The barkeep nodded and walked off to the back. A few seconds later, a woman walked out and glared at the man. What? We need to talk. Naruto didn't know how long had passed since he started playing, but he was enjoying the game. The others at the table were glaring at him however since he'd won the last 6 hands in a row. The blonde was a newbie and kicking their asses at the game. A hand on Naruto's shoulder paused the game and the boy looked over his shoulder to see Galen behind him. Come. Wait, after this hand. The man nodded as Naruto turned back to the table and made the call. Everyone showed their hands and the man to the left of the dealer smirked. Ha! Beat that newbie. I knew your luck would run out sooner or later. Naruto blinked in confusion before showing his hand. But I thought a royal straight flush beats everything. The entire table gaped at the boy's hand and the dealer smirked. Winner of the pot, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto took the money and added it to his stash before turning and offering it to Galen who just shook his head. No, you won it all fair and square. I will however take back my original 1,000. Naruto nodded and handed him a bundle of cash held by a rubber band. Now come. Naruto jumped off the stool and followed the Anbu to the back of the bar towards the bathrooms and then to a lone door. The person you are about to meet is the best when it comes to knowledge for what you are about to learn. I want you to promise me on your ninja honor that you will learn everything she has to teach you. Naruto looked at the man with a raised brow. What exactly is she going to teach me? Galen shook his head. Bow first. Naruto rolled his eyes. Fine. I promise on my honor as a ninja that I will learn everything this person you are making me meet has to teach me. Galen smirked and opened the door. Then get to learning, Uzumaki-san. Naruto growled and walked through the door, only to hear it close after he cleared the threshold. He looked around the dark room to see nothing until a voice cut through the darkness. So, you're the gaki that Galen wants me to teach. Naruto turned and found a pair of green orbs looking at him with a bored look. Blonde hair, blue eyes, whiskers, orange jumpsuit. You're Naruto Uzumaki aren't you? Naruto nodded and shifted his stance a bit. Don't bother. I'm beyond your level of power, kid. I also know everything about you and I do mean everything. Now, Galen wanted me to teach you. So, the click of a switch was heard and the room came into light, revealing a woman Naruto found beautiful in his eyes. The woman stood at the height of 6 foot 7 inches with long flowing brown hair. Her eyes were bright green and she wore a simple black kimono and sandals. I guess you better know exactly what I'm going to teach you. Naruto rose a brow and looked around the room. The only things in the room were a bed and another door into an attached bathroom. So, let's get started. Where the hell is he? Sakura yelled as she and the rest of the team waited at the front gate with Tazuna and Dakuro for Naruto to show up. It's been over an hour since Kakashi-sensei told us to show up, so what the hell could he be doing? Kakashi frowned while looking back into the village, while Sasuke just shrugged. He must have thought that since Kakashi-sensei is always 2 hours late to everything we've done that he would show up to a mission just as late. He's just taking his time and getting ready most likely. Dakuro frowned and turned to Kakashi. I thought you broke that habit of being late, Nai-san. Kakashi chuckled nervously and scratched the back of his head. Well, mostly. Dakuro shook his head and turned to the gate. Who's that? Kakashi looked back to the village to see someone walking up to them in all red and black. No idea. So, Kakashi's actually only an hour late instead of 2, eh? The person called as he walked up and stopped before them. He reached for his hood and lowered it to show Naruto under the hood. Yubaka. Naruto sidestepped a punch from Sakura and grabbed the girl's arm. Unless you want me to break this one, you better control yourself, Haruno. Naruto released the girl's arm and turned back to Kakashi. So, are we all set to go? The two jonin nodded while Tazuna shrugged while drinking his sake. Well, team, let's get going. I can't believe that idiot did that. Kyuubi yelled as she walked through Naruto's mind. And where the hell do I know that name from? She growled as she started to walk down a hall with many doors. I mean, it's only been about 2 million years since I became a demon fox, so where the hell did the name Galian ring a bell at? She looked at each door as she walked, careful not to miss a single door. Ugh, this isn't making things better. She rubbed her forehead, stopping before the last door. She looked at the door and smirked. Jackpot. Now to unlock his memories. She frowned at closer inspection of the door. The door looked to be chained up with a large padlock that had no keyhole, and the door itself was littered with seals and runes. Oh damn it. I wish Lucia was still alive. At least she might have been able to give me some type of help on these things. The vixen sighed and moved closer to the locked door. Well, better get to work. His memories aren't gonna unlock themselves. The group had been walking for a while with Naruto taking point, Sasuke and Sakura on either side of Tazuna and Dekuro and Kakashi in the back, with Kakashi reading his book once again. Looking ahead, Naruto spotted 2 puddles of water on the road. He looked over his shoulder to see Kakashi glancing over his book and then to Naruto. He nodded and Naruto turned back to the front and kept walking. As they walked by them, the red cloaked team dropped a slip of paper to the ground unnoticed to everyone but the 2 jonin. Just as Kakashi passed the 2 puddles, a pair of ninjas started to rise out of them. The first one grabbed his friend and launched him at Kakashi. Boom. Naruto muttered as he turned back to the 2 ninja, just as the second one was launched into the air. The explosion from the tag caught the first one and the chain connecting the 2, shattering it. Kakashi blocked the strike from the missed ninja and delivered a punch to the man's gut, knocking the wind out of him and then striking him in the neck to knock him out. Good job, Naruto. Now, where is number 2? Kakashi wondered as he looked around the path they were taking. Naruto growled and rushed to Tazuna's side while he drew his sword from his waist just as the first missed ninja exploded out of the ground with burns in several places. Old man. The chunin ninja stabbed his claw forward only to meet metal. What? You failed to mention you had Gato after you, Tazuna. Naruto stated as he held the chunin back with his sword. Kakashi appeared behind the chunin and chopped him on the neck. Good work, Naruto. Tazuna, you have some explaining to do. The old man gulped as the 2 genin blinked in confusion of what just happened and Dekuro rose a brow. These 2 are known as the Demon Brothers. They're a pair of nuke ninja from Kurigakure. They're also known to be thugs of Zabuza Mamachi, a rank nuke ninja of Mist and one of the former 7 swordsmen. Dekuro and Kakashi turned to Naruto with raised brows. And you would know this how, Uzumaki-san? Naruto's cheeks gained a slight red color as he pulled out a book. Ah, the bingo book. Last I checked, that was only issued to chunin and above. Naruto shrugged. I just found it lying around. Technically I was the one lying down, it was in a trash can in an alley. I just lost myself reading through the book. Right. Anyway, Tazuna, mind explaining why you lied about who might be after you? The old man sighed. Alright, I confess, I lied to you. But you have to understand. Wave is a very poor country, even our lords don't have the funds for a simple C-ranked mission. I gathered what I could from the villages and lords to come up with just that. The bridge that I'm building is our only hope to free ourselves from Gato. Gato? As in the business tycoon Gato? Kakashi asked and Tazuna nodded. The very same. Please, you have to help us. That man is killing our country. He's kidnapping and killing whoever he wants. Kakashi hummed and turned to the team. It's up to the 3 of you. If you want to turn back, we'll return. Naruto nodded. I vote continue. Dekuro frowned and looked to the other 2. Sasuke smirked and nodded. If the dope is going, I'm going too. Can't let him get into trouble. Sakura got starry-eyed and turned to Kakashi. I'm with Sasuke-kun. Kakashi nodded and looked to his brother. I know the Hokage. Save it, Nai-san. I'll help. Kakashi smiled and turned to Tazuna. Alright, Tazuna, you have our help. However, we need all the information on Gato that you can spare. Tazuna nodded. Thank you, all of you. Your little crew failed, Zabuza. A small businessman growled at the man before him on the couch. Zabuza scoffed and brought his sword down before the small man's face. Shut your trap, Gato. This time, I'll be going and I'll get it done. Save your breath and have our money ready. The small man snarled and walked away as 2 other people came out from the shadows. You 2 ready? I heard the Haddock brothers were part of the group. A chuckle came from the man on Zabuza's right. Good, I have a score to settle with Dekuro. The other person merely nodded. Keep in mind, Ryamus, that we only need to kill the old man. Don't go off half-cocked because of a past defeat. Haku, you'll be our support. We'll hit them as soon as they land in wave. The 2 nodded, Ryamus with a frown. Fine, but I will kill that damned Haddock. Zabuza heard the sound of footsteps and the slamming of a door before he sighed. He looked over his shoulder at Haku with a pointed look and nodded. Understood, Zabuza-sama. So, that's the bridge you're building. Pretty huge. Naruto muttered as they sat in a small boat crossing the water into wave country. Tazuna smirked and nodded. Yup, that there is waves 1 and only hope to freeing us from Gato. Once it's finished we'll be able to do other types of trade aside from our primary. The group nodded as they reached the shore and got off the boat. They walked down the path leading to the village when Naruto heard something in the bushes and threw a kunai into them. The entire team stopped as Naruto walked over and pushed the bushes aside and found a snow-white rabbit with a kunai just above its head. "Naruto, you get down." Kakashi suddenly yelled and brought Izuna down to the ground with him. The entire team followed suit as a giant sword and a large axe flew right through the air where their heads were. Kakashi looked up to where the sword lodged itself in the tree and growled as two figures appeared in the tree, one on the sword handle. Kakashi copy Ninja Haddock and Dakuro White Skull Haddock. What an honor. Zabuza Mamachi, demon of the hidden mist. Kakashi growled out as Dakuro looked at the second figure with an annoyed look. Ryamus Kukara, the black hand of grass. Not you again. The second man growled and jumped to the ground. It's been 12 years since you killed my team in those exams, Haddock. Kakashi reached for his headband as Zabuza took hold of his sword and jumped to the lake. Guard Izuna. We'll take care of these two. Dakuro reached behind him and pulled out his ninja too. Looks like you get your rematch after all, Ryamus. Dakuro spoke in a bored tone and the grass ninja growled. Now then, shall we? Dakuro and Ryamus vanished from sight as Zabuza chuckled. My, seems I get to face the famous Sharingan Kakashi. Ninja art. Hidden mist jutsu. Mist started to roll onto the field as Kakashi pulled his headband up to show his Sharingan. Everyone protect Izuna. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura formed up around the man and Zabuza chuckled. There are 8 vital points on the human body. The mist ninja's voice filled the air. Heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, jugular vein, spine, larynx and collarbone. Now where should I strike? The 3 genin shivered from the killing intent coming from all directions. This intent, it's just like his. Sasuke thought to himself as his hand inched towards his kunai pouch. Is this the power of 2 jonin? This is unreal. I'd rather. Sasuke. Get a hold of yourself. Kakashi yelled out as a burst of chakra from him cleared the mist away. He looked over his shoulder with an eye smile from both eyes. I won't let my comrades die. Heh. You're a little too late for that, Kakashi. The 3 genin widened their eyes in shock as Zabuza spoke from the center of their formation. Now you die. Kakashi's Sharingan eye widened as Zabuza stood and started to swing his massive blade. The silver-haired jonin vanished in a burst of speed and the mist ninja went wide-eyed from the sudden pain in his stomach. Sorry Zabuza, but looks like I win. Zabuza's surprise turned to an evil glare. S again. The man before Kakashi exploded into water. Now die. Water clone. Shit, Kakashi felt the massive sword tear through him just as the team pulled Izuna away from the area. Kakashi-sensei. Sakura called out as Naruto narrowed his eyes at Zabuza. Zabuza chuckled but ceased when cold steel was pressed against his neck. You lose. Kakashi glared down at the man with both eyes when a smirk broke Zabuza's bandaged face. Not likely. The man became water once again and Kakashi was sent towards the lake with a single kick from behind. Zabuza made to take a step forward when he noticed spikes on the ground. Makubishi, eh? Not going to work. Zabuza jumped over the weapons just as Kakashi rolled to his knees on the surface of the lake. Wait a second, this water feels shit. Water style. Water prison jutsu. Zabuza smirked at the downed Kakashi as water formed a large sphere around the jonin. Zabuza looked to the 3 genin and smirked. Your turn. Water clone jutsu. A single clone of the swordsman formed out of the water and started to stalk towards the group. Run. Take Izuna and get out of here. His clone won't be able to go very far without the original nearby. Kakashi yelled to the group of kids only for Naruto to shake his head. No. Naruto formed a single seal and hundreds of clones appeared. Sasuke, Sakura, you guys stay with Izuna. I'm gonna try and save Kakashi. Take Izuna as far as you can. We'll meet up with you shortly. Sasuke looked at the team for a few seconds and nodded. You got it. Sasuke grabbed Izuna's arm and started to drag the man away with Sakura behind them. You think you have what it takes to stop me? Zabuza growled and the clone rushed at the army of Naruto's. The blonde clones rushed at the water clone and were beginning to dispel from quick and easy attacks from the clone. From the back, Naruto threw 2 kunai at the real Zabuza when the water clone appeared and grabbed the boy by the neck and hoisted them up. It seems the jokes are right. Blondes are morons. The clone muttered as Zabuza blocked the 2 kunai sending them into the water. The clone began to squeeze on Naruto's throat and the teen inwardly smirked when he clasped onto the man's arm. Eat this. The retracting blades in Naruto's gloves shot out and impaled the man's arm, causing the clone to not only let go of him, but to dispel as well. Naruto looked up at Zabuza and pulled out 4 shuriken in each hand and threw them. You think you can stop me? Zabuza shouted as he reached for his sword and brought it to protect his front. Naruto smirked, his hand sprang out from the water and grabbed his legs. What? Behind you, asshole. A shout from behind him made him look and found another clone tossing 3 kunai, each armed with tags. Shit. Zabuza pulled his arm back from the prison and Kakashi fell into the water just as an explosion sent Zabuza flying and the two clones dispelling. Kakashi emerged from the water and glared at where Zabuza was getting up with a few minor burns. "Good job, Naruto. Now send for the others. I'll deal with Zabuza now." Naruto nodded and rushed off towards the way that Sasuke had taken Tazuna and Sakura while Kakashi pulled out a kunai and rushed Zabuza just as the man rushed him with his sword. "Pretty smart brat you have there, Kakashi." Zabuza growled as he brought his sword down on the man only for the knife to hold it at bay. "You teach him those tactics all by yourself?" Kakashi didn't answer as the two jumped apart and started to circle each other. "Nope, he's self-taught." The man answered as they stopped for the fifth time. Zabuza started to run through seals and Kakashi started copying them. "Water style. Water dragon projectile jutsu." The two shouted and two dragons rose out of the water and attacked, cancelling each other out. Zabuza growled and the two circled again. Kakashi stopped moving when Zabuza stopped and made the same movements he made. "What is he doing? It's like he's reading my mind." Kakashi spoke out and the man growled as he made another movement. "He's making the same movements at the exact same time." "Right." Zabuza started another line of seals and Kakashi copied. "You won't beat me, you monkey." The two shouted together as they each made the final seal to a jutsu. Zabuza was just about to activate the jutsu when he saw something standing behind Kakashi. "What in the hell? Is that me? Water style. Giant vortex jutsu." Kakashi called out and Zabuza cursed as the water rose and smashed into him with such force that it knocked him off his feet and started to bang him into trees as it flowed, finally slamming him into one final tree as it died. Two kunai lodged themselves deep into each arm when Kakashi appeared in the same tree above him. "Give up, Zabuza. Your future is death." Zabuza looked up to the man and glared. That was all that the man did before two senbon buried themselves into his neck. "Thank you for your assistance, it would have been more of a pain had I taken him on my own." A voice from above Kakashi called to him and he looked up. He saw the voice was from a mist hunter ninja. "No problem, Hunter-san." Kakashi jumped down from the tree and felt for Zabuza's pulse. "Yup, he's dead. Stole my kill, the asshole. I must take care of the body." The hunter announced as he appeared next to the man's body and lifted it up. "Farewell, Haddock-san." The hunter vanished as Kakashi pulled his headband down and sighed before he collapsed onto his back. "Damn, chakra exhaustion." Kakashi sighed and closed his one eye as footsteps neared him. "Overused your eye again, brother." Dekuro kneeled down to the man with eye smiles. Kakashi nodded. "And using two opposing elemental jutsu." Dekuro sighed and shook his head, a scroll in his hands. "So, you kill him?" Dekuro nodded. "Yup. He wanted to fight me all out just like any other, so I didn't take it easy on him. He knows why I'm called the White Skull now that he's dead." Kakashi nodded. "Well, Naruto should be back with the others anytime soon." Dekuro nodded and lifted the man up with an arm over his shoulder. Minutes passed and Kakashi sighed deeply as Naruto and the team came into sight. "What is it?" Kakashi looked up to the red-clothed blonde and sighed. "I screwed up big time." Dekuro nodded. "Dekuro, when we reach Konoha after this mission is over, I have a favor to ask of you." Dekuro nodded as the team ran up to them. "Kakashi-sensei, are you alright?" Sakura shouted as Kakashi smiled at them. "Yes, I'm fine. All thanks to Naruto." "Now, Tazuna, how far is your village from here?" Tazuna smiled and started walking. "Not very far, Kakashi-san. Just about a half-hour's walk and we'll be there." Kakashi nodded and closed his eye as Dekuro and the genin started walking after the man. "Who the hell made these seals? They're too fucking old to be from this time." Kyuubi growled as she sat before the door trying to work out the runes and seals. "Ugh. Where the fuck did they learn runes anyway? I was around when they died out, so what the fuck? Seems you have developed quite the mouth there, Kyuubi." The woman froze at the sudden chill that ran through her spine. "Or would you rather you be called by your real name, Lamina Alsa?" The demon fox jumped to her feet and turned around looking for the voice. "Hum out, coward." A dark chuckle echoed off the walls as darkness started to consume her sight. "Ah, but that would ruin the fun, my old friend. It does spike my interest however that you are the nine-tailed fox." The woman growled, baring her fangs. "Who are you anyway? How do you know my old name?" The chuckle returned. "Answer me, damn you." "Nitro Dagger. Mega Seal." The girl cried out in pain as she felt her energy for her attack leave her painfully. My, how weak you've become being sealed inside a boy. Hiro and the others would be very disappointed in the Black Witch of Althena." The demon growled out as footsteps approached her. "And stealing one of my spells. Too bad you seem a bit rusty on casting magic in your old age. Damn you." Poor Lamina Alsa, premier of the Magic Guild of Vayne and Black Witch, but also the harbinger of Lunar's destruction. The girl froze in fear. How do you know that?" "Ha ha 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 ha. Enjoy your punishment for releasing's offer, Lamina." It wasn't my fault. He tricked me. I didn't know it was him. That, my dear Lamina, is for you to prove and for me to see. Now, before I leave, do your old friend one last favor and make sure Naruto survives the coming trials. I would hate to see the next Dragon Master die just like all the people you killed from taking that bastard's power as a gift. Also, your features are wrong, my dear. It seems all that blood you shed has become your natural color. Ah ha ha ha. The loud crack of thunder echoed the halls, making Lamina clasp her hands over her ears in pain. The red-headed woman opened her eyes and gasped at the mirror that had suddenly appeared before her. What is this? She ran a hand through her red hair with a terrified look on her face. No. This isn't right. This is all wrong. She smashed a fist into the mirror in anger, breaking it to pieces. It had to be a trick. She grabbed a few locks of her hair and pulled them to her front to see what color they are. They were blood red. No. Lamina fell to her knees, grasping her head and screamed. Damn you's offer. Naruto shot up from his dream and looked around the room rapidly. When he noticed that everyone was up he frowned. Was that you yelling Kyuubi? He heard sobs coming from the back of his mind and got no answer. He growled. Answer me. Just leave me alone, Naruto. Go learn from your scrolls or something. I need time to think. The boy rolled his eyes and got up. Whatever, the boy got dressed and, after checking that everything was in place, headed out of the room only to bump into someone. That someone just happened to be Sasuke. Good, you're up. Kakashi called a team meeting. He just woke up half an hour ago. Naruto nodded and started to follow the boy to Kakashi's room. Naruto, do you normally talk in your sleep? Naruto looked at the back of the boy's head with a confused look. No, why? Because, you were last night and you were crying. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the back of the boy's head. You trying to make fun of me, team? Sasuke looked over his shoulder with a cold glare that stopped Naruto in his tracks. No, I'm not. To tell the truth, dope, I didn't peg you for the type to get painful nightmares like I do. Bad memories? Naruto looked at the teen surprised. I don't know. I only hear voices. Sometimes, they try to say a name and I can't hear them either. Sasuke frowned and nodded. Don't worry, I'm not like that Inuzuka moron, Sakura Ino. I won't tell anyone nor will I look down on you for it. Naruto nodded as they continued on the path to Kakashi's room. They stopped outside a bedroom door and Sasuke opened it. After you, dope. Naruto smirked and nodded. Thanks, team. Sasuke nodded and the blonde walked into the room to see Takuro leaning against the wall next to Kakashi, who was laying down on the bed mat, and Sakura sitting on the floor next to him. Oh good, you came. Now, I have an important announcement to make. Zabuza is still alive. Naruto spoke up and Kakashi sighed. How did you guess? Takuro asked and Naruto rolled his eyes. That would be the only thing to make him call a team meeting first thing in the morning. Kakashi nodded. Yes, you are correct, Naruto. Zabuza is still alive. However, since the hunter who saved him nailed him in the neck with senbon, he's going to take at least a week to recover, and the same can be said with me because of my chakra exhaustion. If we're going to defeat Zabuza, you three need to be trained. And I know just the things to teach you. Kakashi gave everyone an eye smile, and Naruto looked to him with a glare. Oh, you mean you're actually going to teach me something? Kakashi's smile faltered and he nodded. Yes, Naruto, but I also need to know what you have taught yourself. Water walking, tree walking, the leaf floating technique and shadow clone jutsu. Kakashi nodded and looked to Sasuke. Leaf floating. Same here, sensei. Kakashi nodded and looked to Takuro. I need you to help me out with this. I have a few ideas, but I need to get them up to water walking. Takuro nodded and looked to the three. Alright, it seems I'm going to teaching the two of you tree walking and then water walking. Naruto, I'm not sure what to. If you have another exercise, I can work on that. Naruto interrupted the man and he nodded. Alright then, point balancing it is. Kakashi nodded and sat up, wincing in pain. Alright, get me some crutches and we'll get started. Takuro nodded and helped the man to his feet as Sakura got the crutches from the corner of the room. Kakashi took the crutches and I smiled to everyone. Takuro, get them started on tree climbing and I'll help Naruto with point balancing. Takuro nodded and led the two genin out of the room. Kakashi looked to Naruto and nodded. Let's get going. You failed. Gato burst into the room where Zabuza laid in bed with Haku sitting next to him. Zabuza narrowed his eyes and glared at the short man as he walked up to the side of the bed. Well, say something. Gato started to reach for the man's neck when a hand grabbed and applied pressure to his own arm, breaking it. Do not touch Zabuza-sama with your filthy hands. Haku growled at the man and pushed him back. The hunter looked at Gato's men and vanished from sight the moment Haku saw them reaching for their swords. The two thugs found their own swords against their necks, and Zabuza chuckled. Don't worry, Gato. I know how to stop Kakashi next time. Now, I suggest you leave before you make Haku even angrier. Gato growled and started to walk out of the room. 1 week. That's all you're getting for this, Zabuza. Gatu and his guards walked out of the room and slammed the door. Zabuza sighed and looked to Haku as he lifted the sheets. "You didn't need to do that." Haku nodded as the hunter spotted the kunai. "Haku, we need to be careful. I'm getting a bad feeling about this job." Haku nodded. "Yes, Zabuza-sama." The hunter stood and started for the door. "I'll go out to look for some more herbs to help your recovery." "Alright, just be careful out there." Haku nodded and walked out the room. Zabuza sighed and shook his head. "Alright Naruto, this should be a good spot." Kakashi told the boy as they came to a stop in a large clearing near the lake. "Now for point balancing you'll need this." Kakashi pulled out a single scroll and unsealed a silver pyramid. "This is what I used to learn this exercise. What you need to do is using your palm, balance yourself on the point of the block while keeping your body perpendicular with the ground. The point cannot touch your skin or trust me you will fall. Also, once you're able to hold yourself up for a full hour without wavering, try using only one finger at a time and be sure to use both hands." Kakashi placed the block on the ground and looked up at Naruto. "Any questions?" Naruto nodded. "How many of those do you have with you?" Kakashi I smiled. "Ah, so you figured out the training secret already? Very good, Naruto. Now, I have about 9 more of these. Would that suit you?" Naruto nodded and Kakashi threw the boy the scroll he pulled the first from. "There you go. Also, I should let you know that while you can learn more and more exercises than you have now, don't neglect the ones that you do have mastered. I suggest training with them every time you train. Your clones would be enough for that. Now, I guess I'll have to think of a jutsu or something to teach you. Let's see, I actually have a scroll full of jutsu that I can learn from. A few taijutsu and ninjutsu to start with." Kakashi nodded. "That could work. After all, the only jutsu you have besides the shadow clone are substitution and henge. You'll need to work more in your taijutsu since you're mostly a brawler. What's the name of the taijutsu style?" Naruto pulled out a small scroll that turned into a bigger scroll when he added chakra to it. He unsealed a single scroll and looked at it. "The blue dragon fist." Kakashi looked at the scroll with a raised brow. "I've never heard of it." Naruto nodded. "Neither have I, but that just gives me an advantage." Kakashi nodded. "Very well, I'll leave you to your training then. If you need anything, come find me. I'll be sure to help you out." Naruto nodded and Kakashi started to take his leave when he stopped and took out another scroll. "You know, maybe you can put this to use as well. I found it lying around in a trash can one day and well, dragons aren't really my type. Though I don't know what exactly it is, I decided to keep it in case I found someone who could use it." Kakashi tossed it over his shoulder and continued on. Naruto caught the scroll and saw the scroll only had the words 5 dragons on it. "Thank you, Kakashi-sensei." The man nodded and started his way again. "I still don't trust you. I know you're only trying to cover your own ass." Naruto muttered and made the seals for shadow clones. Once the boy's desired amount had been reached, he started to assign tasks to each of them. The couple went to study the medical books, another group went to study sealing, and a third to study hunting and skinning. A large group of Naruto's clones went to work on water walking, while 2 others went to work on tree walking and the leaf floating, being ordered to mix the 2 up. A group of 10 were made to perform the exercise Kakashi had given him. Naruto turned to another group and handed them a single jutsu scroll that wasn't part of the dragon set. He then gave 2 other groups a scroll and sent them on their way. "Alright, time to see just what these dragon jutsu are." Naruto muttered and started to leave the clearing with his large scroll. He walked further from the training ground Kakashi left him at until he reached a peaceful clearing with many trees and flowers. He looked at the scroll that he had gotten just moments ago from Kakashi and nodded. Here first Naruto opened the scroll and suddenly, everything went dark. "So, this is the chosen child. The one you have spoke of null." A rumbling growl echoed the darkness as Naruto's blue eyes slowly opened to see himself standing on a large ship that was surrounded in darkness. "Yes, although something seems wrong." A kind voice called out through the darkness. Naruto stood up and started to look around. "I agree husband, I sense a familiar presence in his aura." Naruto turned towards the lovely feminine voice, but could only see the massive ship he was on. "Yes, my friends, I sense it too. That presence is irritating me, like a thorn in my side." A deep voice echoed and Naruto growled. "What is going on here? Who are you? Where am I? That hair and those whiskers reminds me of her. How would he be?" A second female voice was cut off. "Remember, Raikou, she was tricked." The first female voice responded. "Remember what Lucia told us. His release was not her fault but of his own tricks." "Enough." The very first voice called out and the others silenced. "It is clear that the child somehow houses Dot after all, with Zoffer's curse laid upon her. I am not surprised that she has lived this long after the destruction of Lunar. However, there is something clearly blocking the boy's mind. Something that should not be there with that vixen." The stomping of something big coming towards him made Naruto turn to the first voice, only to freeze in sheer awe and fear. For before Naruto Uzumaki was a very large green dragon. "Boy, tell me, where did you get the sword of Althena?" Naruto blinked and held up the sword in sheath. "Yes, boy, where did you get that?" Naruto looked from the dragon to the sheath and noticed that both the green dragon head and the dragon before him looked exactly alike. "I found it in a shop." The front left paw of the dragon slammed against the wooden floor that Naruto awoke to. "Do not lie to me, boy. I can smell the lie coming from you. We all can. Now, where did you get that sword?" Naruto narrowed his eyes at the great beast. "I told you. I found it in a shop. I've never seen the sword before then. The boy is lying to us, Star." The second female voice, Raikou if Naruto remembered correctly, roared as a black dragon stomped into the light, its yellow eyes glaring down at Naruto. "Calm yourselves, dragons." A muffled human voice called out through the darkness. Heavy footsteps could be heard as Naruto turned to them to watch as a person came out dressed in strange black armor with a long black cape. The person's head was covered with a strange black helm. Several growls echoed the throats of the dragons as the person came to a stop next to Naruto. "I am the one who presented not only the sword but the scrolls of the four heroes to him. However, it seems that someone has tampered with his memories. Who the hell are you?" The man gave a cold chuckle and turned his head down to him. "I am only known as the Magic Emperor." The man told him and turned back to the dragons. "You have a lot of guts to bring yourself before us, Emperor. Especially after what you have done to my kin long ago." Star growled to the man and he nodded. "Yes, I know, Star. But the matter of interest at the moment is young Uzumaki here." The man waved a gauntlet-covered hand to the boy. "You all know that I was revived to help the chosen boy who will rise as the new Dragon Master. It has been a long wait for us all, and he now stands before you." The dragons had all come into view now and the man continues. "However, with the world changing over the millions of years we waited, I have had to make some changes to the scrolls, making them into what they call jutsu instead of magic. Ah yes, I have knowledge of all this. However, why do you show yourself to us now, Emperor? Your duty is to train the next Dragon Master. I cannot train him. I can only guide him and offer my help when in need of it. However, I have given or rather the Kyuubi as she is now known, a message that she will help him or she will not be forgiven as she seeks to be." Star nodded and looked to the boy. "Very well. Naruto Uzumaki, from this day forth, you shall begin the journey to become the Dragon Master, the most powerful warrior to ever walk the blue and silver stars. Should you need to speak with us, open this scroll and you will be brought here. The same could be said if we need to speak to you, and trust me, you will know when you are needed by us. May Althena guide you in your quest, child." Naruto was about to yell at the dragon only for everything to go black once again. "Hey, are you okay?" A kind womanly voice echoed in his ears as Naruto felt someone shaking him awake. "Hey, wake up, you'll catch a cold if you sleep out here." Naruto opened his eyes and met the chocolate brown orbs of the teenage girl before him. She had long brown hair and wore a beautiful pink kimono and a pair of sandals. "You okay?" "Why yeah." Naruto blushed at the closeness of the girl as she smiled to him. "That's good. You know, you shouldn't be sleeping outside like this at this time of day. You could get sick." Naruto shrugged as the teen leaned away from him. "I've never nor will I ever get sick. It's part of my curse." Naruto muttered at the end, but the girl frowned as she had heard it. "Curse?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, let's just say I'm hated throughout my village for something outside my control." The girl's eyes softened and Naruto saw the same thing he saw every time he looked into a mirror. Pain, sorrow, longing, everything he felt he saw reflected in her eyes. "You're hated too, aren't you?" The girl flinched back in surprise but nodded with a sad look on her face. "Yes, I was, but that was before I left my home village." Naruto nodded. "My name's Haku." Naruto smiled kindly to the girl. "I'm Naruto." The girl smiled and stood up, offering a hand to the boy. He took the hand and was lifted up to his feet. "Naruto-san, don't call me san. I'm not very big on honorifics." Haku nodded. "Okay, Naruto-kun, would you like to give me a hand? I'm looking for some herbs that can be used in medicines." Naruto nodded to her as he rolled his blank scroll up and placed it in his cloak pocket. "Sure, lead the way." Haku nodded and the two proceeded to look around the area, Haku pointing out what herbs she needed. "Naruto-kun, if you don't mind my asking, what exactly is your curse?" Naruto looked over his shoulder for a second before turning back. "I've been blamed since birth for something outside my control." Haku frowned as he had told her that already. "They see me as a reminder of the Kyuubi attack since I was born on that very day." Haku nodded. "I was raised in a village not far from Kurigakure." Naruto rose a brow and looked over his shoulder at her. During the time, the Mizukage had started a bloodline civil war. He hated all bloodline users and wanted them purged from his country. "You were one of them?" Haku nodded. "Yes, I have a Kekai Genkai." Haku stood and turned to Naruto. "I am able to manipulate water into ice and use it. I found my ability out when I was 4. Haku moved over to another spot and started to look for the herbs she needed. When I showed my mother, she slapped me and told me to never do it again. But someone else saw, didn't they? Naruto asked as he walked over to her and knelt down. Haku nodded. My father. That night, he gathered a mob of villagers and stormed our home. Naruto saw tears starting to leak from the girl's eyes. He killed my mother first, and then they all came after me. Before they could kill me, my bloodline activated and I killed them all. Naruto sighed and shook his head. Their bloodline isn't a curse in Konoha. If you were to go live there, then trust me when I say that you would be seen as royalty. Naruto shook his head as he stood to his feet and looked to the sky. I, on the other hand, will always be seen as the demon that killed the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto held out a hand and helped the girl up. Do you have everything? Haku nodded. Yes, thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded and started to walk away. Naruto-kun. Naruto looked over his shoulder at the girl. Can I see you again? Naruto sighed. I would get in trouble for meeting with the enemy, Hunter-san. Haku's eyes widened as Naruto smirked. But I sure wouldn't care. Tomorrow then. Right here. Haku smiled kindly and nodded. How? You gave me enough information to piece it together. The herbs and your story. Haku looked to the ground. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about you. Besides, Naruto started walking away, those that are cursed should stick together to fight against those same curses. Naruto exited the clearing as Haku watched after him, both unaware of the pair of eyes watching the two. Seems the boy is taking control of his own life. The person looked to the girl still in the clearing. She might be one of the 5 from the vision she had. Then I need to make sure she doesn't die. The spy gave a hearty chuckle and vanished in a flash of purple light. Naruto walked out of the forest to his little training area to find that all his clones had dispelled during the time he was unconscious. He looked to the sky as he tried to recall everything and smiled slightly when he remembered everything the clones had done. Hey, dope. Naruto looked to the voice to see Sasuke standing and waiting for him. Finally found you. You've been gone all day. Naruto nodded. I lost track of time with training. Sasuke nodded and turned towards the direction of Tizuna's house. Come on. Dinner's waiting. Naruto nodded and followed Sasuke back to the house. At night, when Naruto went to bed, he would never notice the appearance of a white dragon head on one of his 5 dragon scrolls. The next morning found Naruto back in his training ground while Kakashi helped Sasuke and Sakura and Dakuro protected Tizuna while he was working at the bridge. Naruto created the same amount of clones he had yesterday and let them get to work. He then created 10 more and handed them the Kenjutsu scrolls. Learn the basics and practice them. The 4 nodded and went to study. Naruto turned towards the forest and started heading in. He arrived in the clearing where he met Haku and took out the Taijutsu scroll from his vest pocket. Might as well do something while I wait for her to show if she decides to show up. Naruto opened the scroll and sat down against the nearest tree and started to read. Half an hour into reading, Naruto heard a rustling in the bushes. He looked up to see Haku walking into the clearing with a smile. Hello, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled back and rolled the scroll up before standing. He made 10 shadow clones and handed them the scroll. That to work. The 10 nodded and left the clearing. Naruto turned to Haku to see her confused look. Shadow clones. They're solid clones and they cost a lot of chakra to make. I'm the only genin in Konoha that can do it. Most jonin have trouble with it because of the chakra usage. I learn whatever they learn, which is very useful in learning new jutsu and such. Haku nodded, storing the information in the back of her head. So, what did you want to meet me again for? Haku's cheeks gained a faint pink color. I guess I haven't really thought of it myself. Naruto chuckled and nodded. Well, how about teaching me a bit about medicine? I don't really have anything to offer in exchange. Haku thought about it for a moment before nodding. Alright, Naruto-kun. You'll just have to find a way to pay me back, however. If we survive at the end of this ordeal. Naruto nodded. Deal. Chapter 3. The first of the 5. Leaving again, Haku. The voice from behind her made the girl stop in her tracks. She turned with guilty eyes to face the voice to find Zabuza out of bed, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed and a pointed look. Yes, Zabuza-sama. Where have you been going this past week, Haku? Haku hung her head. To the forest, Zabuza-sama. For what? To meet with someone. Zabuza rose a brow. Who is it? The girl stayed silent. Haku. Naruto Uzumaki. Zabuza narrowed his eyes. The blonde brat. Haku nodded and the man glared at her for a few seconds. Does he know about you? Yes. Zabuza sighed and shook his head. What have the two of you been doing, Haku? I've been teaching him medicine, Zabuza-sama. He hasn't questioned me at all about our plans. The swordsman rubbed his forehead. I'm gonna regret this in the morning. Go. Haku looked to him surprised. What? Go meet with him. We're attacking the day after tomorrow since I'm able once again. Tomorrow is the last time the two of you will be friends, so make the best of it. Zabuza turned and headed back to his room. Haku frowned but turned and left the hideout, unaware of the two figures following her at a distance. Haku arrived at the usual spot where she met Naruto and found the boy reading a medical book. She smiled and entered the clearing. "Hello, Naruto-kun." Naruto looked up from the book and smiled. "Hello Haku. Shall we start where we left off?" Haku nodded and began teaching the boy where they had left off the day before. Both of the ninja didn't notice the several pairs of eyes watching them. A single pair closed as the owner let out a silent sigh. "I have to tell Kakashi about this." "So, Naruto, this is where you have disappearing to every day," Takuro thought to himself before he narrowed his eyes at the two presences he could sense from behind the two. She was followed as well. Or maybe an ambush against Naruto. The fourth pair of eyes hardened as the man that owned them looked from Takuro's position to the other two. "What are you two planning? If you plan to hurt my charges, I will destroy you. And you, White Skull, I'll be sure to punish if you prevent them from meeting again." The man watched over the entire clearing, waiting and watching for anything that would threaten the two teens below his hiding spot. The two teens took a break for lunch and Naruto pulled out a few sandwiches from a bag he had with him. "Hey Haku." The girl looked to him as she took her sandwich. "I was wondering, do you know any water jutsu?" The girl nodded with a raised brow. "Yes. Can you teach me a couple? I have a scroll on some ice jutsu, but I can't seem to get them to work correctly. I can get the ice to form, but I can't get the jutsu to work all the way. I was thinking that maybe I should work on wind and water before I try to use their combined element." Haku's eyes widened as Naruto took a scroll from his vest pocket out and held it out to her. "I know we're enemies, but I want to pay you back somehow for teaching me medicine and, if you can, some water jutsu. I'll gladly let you learn a few of my own in exchange for all of this." Haku took the scroll and looked to it. "White Dragon Ninjutsu?" Naruto nodded. "I had just started trying to learn from it 2 days ago. Inside are mostly wind and ice style jutsu, but for some reason I'm having a hard time with the very first jutsu, which is an ice. I tried to open some of my other scrolls, but the only ones that would open for me are that one, the Tai Jutsu scroll and the Ken Jutsu scroll." Haku looked to the scroll once again and took a deep breath before she attempted to open it. The man above them watched with a smirk on his masked face as the scroll opened for the girl and he silently chuckled. "She indeed is the first of the 5. I shall have to watch over them very carefully to make sure they make it back to Konoha." "Naruto, are you sure you want me to learn these?" Naruto nodded. "You've helped me, so in return, I want to help you. Even if it's for a small amount of time, I still think I should repay you. No matter the inevitable." Haku smiled sadly and nodded. "Very well, then I accept. I will teach you a few water jutsu in exchange for learning a few of your ice jutsu." Naruto smiled widely and took a large bite out of his sandwich. Haku began eating her own and read through the first jutsu that she came across. Sharing his own jutsu with the enemy. Maybe he is a moron after all. Takuro sighed and leapt away from his spot, a clone taking his place. This is not going to end well. "So, Naruto's been meeting with the hunter, eh?" Takuro nodded, making Kakashi sigh. "Well, that answers where he's been disappearing to after he sets up his clones. I guess we'll have to start watching him train then. If this hunter reports to Zabuza anything that might put any of us in danger, we'll have to take her out before we get ourselves into any trouble. We don't know if Zabuza has anyone else under his wing." Takuro nodded and looked to where Sasuke and Sakura were working on sparring on top of water. "I don't know, but I'll keep an eye on the two. If Naruto hands out any information to the girl, I'll take her out before she gets back to Zabuza. I have a clone watching them right now." Kakashi nodded and turned back to the two genin. "Alright, you two. Start doing jutsu while maintaining your control. This way, you're concentrating your chakra into your exercise and into your jutsu." Sasuke and Sakura, both winded, nodded and started to run through seals. It's a good thing we taught them both a different clone jutsu. The mud clone should be a lot more useful to them, and Sakura should be more adept to earth jutsu anyway. Sasuke's good with fire, but that's only because of his clan. Takuro nodded. "So, when do you think he'll strike?" Kakashi sighed. "If I was a man that had taken 2 senbon to the neck to fake my death, I would attack at the very end of the week. That way, I know for a fact I'm at 100%. Takuro nodded. "You stay with Tazuna's family and I'll take Zabuza on." "That sound good?" Kakashi thought for a few seconds. "Let's sit on that for a bit." Takuro nodded and watched as a large fireball exited from Sasuke's mouth while a smaller fireball shot from Sakura's. "It's late," Naruto told the girl as he looked to the red sky, showing the sun was setting. Haku looked up as well and nodded. "Yeah. I guess this is the end of our training for the day." Naruto sighed and looked to the girl. "So I take it we only have one last day then?" Haku hung her head with a sad look. "Unfortunately, yes. After tomorrow we'll be enemies again." Naruto frowned and turned back to the sky. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "I guess this will always be my fate. To be alone with no real friends. All thanks to my status as a Jinchuriki." Haku snapped her head up at the boy as she watched him walk away. I know you've been wanting to know. I'm the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. Haku, if you still want to meet me here tomorrow, I'll be waiting. If not, I understand. Before Haku could say anything, Naruto walked out of sight into the forest. She looked to the forest floor as tears leaked from her eyes. I'll be here, Naruto-kun. Haku turned towards her hideout and vanished with a simple shunshin. From the trees, a clone of Dekuro sighed and dispelled itself. I see, so his little pet has been going behind his back. Gatu asked his henchman, and he nodded. Yeah, boss. Saw her talking and training with the kid. Seems Zabuza either doesn't know or is letting her do it to get close to the kid. Might be trying to kill the old man. Gatu scoffed and turned around in his chair, his back to the man. Like it matters. Either way, Zabuza's going to meet his end. Did you find out when he plans on going after the old man? They weren't really clear, but I think the day after tomorrow. They were saying that tomorrow would be their last day as friends. Gatu nodded. I see. And what about that shipment? Did it get here? Yes, sir. It's already loaded onto your yacht as you instructed. Gatu nodded. Good. Make sure they are well fed. Oh, and send a couple of men to ambush the bitch. Bring her to me. The man nodded. Yes, sir. Naruto stood next to the lake he was training at when Haku was teaching him water jutsu when the sound of soft footsteps reached his ears. He stopped in the middle of the seals he was running though to turn and see Haku walking into the clearing. I thought you thought wrong, Naruto-kun. Haku smiled to the boy and he smiled back kindly. Last day. Yes it is. Naruto turned to her and sighed. So, what? Don't go to the bridge tomorrow. Haku blurted out, making Naruto look to her with a raised brow. What do you mean? Don't show up to the bridge. Zabuza-sama and I will be waiting for you, all of you. Naruto shook his head. Haku, I have to show up. Haku clenched her fists. Naruto-kun, please. I don't want to lose the only friend I have because of a stupid mission. Naruto frowned and shook his head. I'm sorry Haku, but I have to show up. I don't want to lose you either, Haku, but with you and Zabuza being missing ninja trying to kill my mission client, I have no choice. Naruto smiled sadly to the girl. If the two of you were with Konoha, then this wouldn't have to happen, but you know it has to. We can't join Konoha, you know that. They wouldn't let us anywhere near the gates and your Hokage would. The old man sees me as his grandson. If I asked him, the two of you would have a better chance of survival. Zabuza-sama wouldn't agree. Do you truly know that? If you ask him, would he say no? Haku growled and glared at the boy. I'm only a tool. I have no right to sway his decision. Naruto frowned at the girl. That's all we are, Naruto-kun. We're tools of the villages that make us into ninja. Then how is it that we're friends? Haku closed her mouth as Naruto growled at her. If we're tools like you say we are, Haku, then how is it that we have become friends? Tools don't have friends, humans do, well, normal humans anyway. Naruto turned from the lake and started walking away from her and the clearing. If we're tools, Haku, then I best take my leave now and end our friendship. Goodbye. Naruto jumped into the woods as Haku made to stop him. Clapping from the background made the girl look behind her to see 5 of Gatu's men walk out of the woods. Nice speech, babe. Haku cursed as she backed herself to the lake. Can't have you get too close to your element now, can we? I think you're right, Tsuko. Haku froze in mid-step and looked behind her to see her path blocked. I owe you for that stunt you pulled back at your little hideout, bitch. Haku narrowed her eyes. What do you want? Tsuko, a bald man with a scar on his cheek, chuckled. Atu sent us to get you. Said he wanted to repay you for breaking his arm. The team growled as water started to rise from the lake. You picked the water, turned solid and created a large ice dragon. The wrong day to mess with me. The men before her paled at the size of the dragon while the group behind her looked up. Just because you have me and the lake separated doesn't mean I can't still create my jutsus. The girl threw a hand back behind her, intending to make the dragon attack the group behind her, only for her eyes to go wide as the shadow of the ice dragon enlarged to make the great beast tower over the entire clearing. I lost control of it. But how? None of these fools should. Allow me, dear. A muffled voice called out as the dragon shattered. Nitro dagger. The shards of the dragon turned into sharp daggers that started to rain down on the entire field. Haku put her arm up to protect her head while the screams of Gatu's men filled the air. Once the sound of flying objects stopped and the screaming ceased, Haku looked up from her protective stance to see the entire group of Gatu's men and the entire clearing littered with ice daggers. There now, my dear. Can't have you getting harmed now, can we? Haku looked around for the voice. Show yourself. The voice chuckled loudly. I would, my dear, but you have yet to earn that right to meet me. Now, be a good little tool and return to your master. The voice spat the words like poison. After all, a tool should never leave their master's side unless the tool has a new one perchance. Ah ha 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 ha. The voice faded in laughter as Haku fell to her knees, slamming a fist to the ground and watching as all the bodies mysteriously vanished before her. They caught me off guard. How could I have been so careless? The girl looked to the lake. Whoever that was is a very powerful ice user. He managed to take control of my dragon, enlarge it and create a new attack from it. Haku looked to the nearest ice dagger and reached for it. She pulled her hand back suddenly as if it burned her. So cold that it feels like you're getting burnt, like nitrous oxide being sprayed at your hand. Nitro dagger, huh? Haku stood and looked around the clearing. Maybe I can recreate the attack. It'll be a while, but I think I can do it. Haku shook her head and started heading for her and Zabuza's hideout. Naruto looked back to the direction of Haku's chakra spike and frowned. What is she doing? Naruto, everything okay? Dekuro appeared and looked to the boy. Naruto nodded and resumed sparring with his clones in taijutsu. Everything's fine, Dekuro-san. The man frowned under his mask. He had seen the exchange between the two. You did the right thing, Naruto. Dekuro stated, suddenly making Naruto stop his match and sigh. I knew it was only a matter of time until you and Kakashi figured something was up. Dekuro nodded. So, how long? Since yesterday. You've been showing up late for dinner all week, so Kakashi asked me to tail you and find out just what you were doing. Naruto sighed and looked to the man after sending his clones to spar by themselves. Am I in trouble then? Dekuro shook his head. No, not unless you have given them some vital information about Konoha or this mission they can use against us. Naruto shook his head. It just isn't right. Ninja shouldn't be treated as tools. You're all human too. Dekuro noticed the change and frowned. Naruto, you're human as well. You only have a single difference between us that doesn't make you any less human. Tell that to Konoha. Naruto looked to the sky. I know, Naruto, but trust me. One day, you'll be seen as who you really are. It may only be by one person or an entire village, but you will be seen as Naruto Uzumaki, ninja of Konoha, and not your burden. Naruto closed his eyes and nodded. What's the plan for tomorrow then? Dekuro smiled to the boy. That is still up for debate. Kakashi and I are thinking of having Sakura, Sasuke and I escort Tazuna to the bridge while you and Kakashi stay. I want to fight. Naruto looked to the man with determined eyes. I want to make them see they have a chance elsewhere. Dekuro nodded. Naruto, we're still debating, but I will keep it in mind. If I do go, I will give them the offer to come and join Konoha's ranks. We can always use skilled swordsmen like Zabuza, and if that hunter is as strong as we think, her too. Naruto nodded. Thank you. The Jonin nodded. Now, I have some advice for your training. While the shadow clone jutsu is great and all with doing chakra-related work, your body does require some attention as well. When tomorrow ends, I suggest you start training your body. You can do this by running laps and exercising. Though, if you want an expert's opinion, then seek out Might Guy in Konoha. He's the #1 taijutsu specialist in the entire country and will be the best person to help you. Although, his methods are a bit strange. Naruto nodded. I'll think on that. I'll see you at dinner should you make it. I'll talk with Kakashi about the plan. Naruto nodded once again and the man vanished in a swirl of leaves. Naruto turned back to his clones and closed his eyes, clenching his fists. Haku, ah. Lamina growled, slamming a fist against the floor. Why won't they break? I break one seal, it repairs itself. What the hell is going on? So, this is where you've been the last few days. Lamina looked over her shoulder to see Naruto looking around his mind. I hate the look of this place. Then change it. It's your mind. The vixen snapped at him and turned back to the door. Aren't you supposed to be training? Naruto looked at her from the corner of his eye. I'm meditating upside down on a tree. Thought it might help with my chakra control. The woman shrugged. What are you doing? Trying to break these damned seals and runes that are blocking your memories. Lamina turned her head to him with a glare. Now, if you don't mind, beat it. I'm pissed off enough that I don't look anything like I was before these things were placed here. Naruto nodded. Fine as you wish, Kyuubi. Lamina turned back to the door once again as Naruto walked off into his mind. You're back early. Zabuza looked up from his spot on the floor as the door opened to show Haku walking in. He didn't show up. No, he did, but we had an argument. Zabuza rose a brow and rose to his feet from the push-ups he was doing. What happened? Haku frowned and crossed her arms over her chest, feeling something against her arm. She reached into her right sleeve and pulled out a scroll. Shoot, I forgot to give it back. Zabuza walked over and snatched it from the girl. White Dragon Ninjutsu? Zabuza tried to open the scroll only for the object to hold tight. What? He tried adding chakra to the white dragon head and tried again only for it to remain closed. The damn thing won't open. Haku looked at the scroll confusingly and took it from him. She tried opening the scroll and succeeded. That's strange. Can you read it? Haku turned it around and watched as the man shook his head. No, it's blank to me. It seems that it's attuned to only you and possibly the brat. I wonder why it would open for you when you're both enemies. Haku shook her head. Anyway, what went wrong? He wants us to come to Konoha. I told him it was solely up to you since I'm only a tool. Zabuza frowned but quickly recovered. I told him that as a tool I have no right to sway your decision. He then said that if I was a tool, how did the two of us become friends? He went on saying that we're still human but quickly wrote himself off as something not human because of the curse he carries since the day of his birth. The man rose a brow. He has a bloodline and he's knows something bigger. What is it? Haku bit her lip. Should I? I mean, he trusted me with his secret. But we're enemies now, aren't we? A hand waved in front of her face and she looked up to Zabuza's face. You there? He's a Jinchuriki. Zabuza closed his eyes and sighed. The worst fate a newborn could get is to have a demon sealed into your gut on the very day of your birth. Zabuza muttered. I take it he has the 9 tails. Haku nodded and the man turned away from her. I need to think on this. I'll have a plan by dinner. Should I tell him about no, we need the money. If I tell him then we'll be on the run again, yes, Zabuza-sama. Haku bowed and walked out of the room, Zabuza's black eyes watching her move. What do I do, Kagura? Good, you're all here. Kakashi smiled to his team as they all sat down for dinner. Now, here is the problem. There is a good chance that, starting tomorrow, Zabuza could attack Tazuna. I'm sure that the hunter who helped him has been taking care of his wounds as well. Well, I'm not at full strength, Dekuro and the rest of you are. Therefore, Dekuro and I have agreed on this. Sasuke, Sakura and I will escort Tazuna to the bridge. Dekuro took over for Kakashi. Kakashi and Naruto will patrol the house in case Gato or Zabuza sends anyone to attack Tazuna's family. This way, Kakashi and Naruto will be enough to take out the hunter or any thugs should they appear instead, since Zabuza would most likely attack the bridge to either buy time for hostages to be acquired or for a frontal assault. Dekuro and I have taught you everything we could think of to try and prepare you to have some type of fighting chance against the hunter, since here I will be taking on Zabuza depending on where he shows up. We need each of you to be ready for any type of threat. Remember, if you don't kill your enemy today, they will come back to haunt you. Naruto looked to his meal in silence as Sasuke and Sakura nodded to the two men. Naruto. Yes. Naruto looked up at his sensei and the man's brother. Are you alright with this plan? Kakashi asked the boy. Yes. Kakashi frowned under his mask and nodded. Very well. Everyone be sure to head to bed early tonight and be ready in the morning. We all need to be at full strength. The genin nodded as they continued to eat their meal. Halfway through his, Naruto pushed the plate away and stood from his seat. I need to think. Naruto started walking away and out of the house. Kakashi watched the boy with a frown. I hope you know what you're doing, Dekuro. The man nodded as he stood from his seat. Don't worry. I'll try my best. The man started for his shared room with Kakashi when Sakura looked at Kakashi. What's wrong with that baka? First he thinks he can be late to everything, then he won't listen to you, and now he's… Shut up. Sasuke growled at her. Use that damned head of yours before I break your hand and shut the hell up. Sakura looked at the boy with surprised fear. You don't know the first thing about him other than what you think you know. Hell, none of us know the real him. If you took time out of annoying the hell out of me for a date to actually look at Naruto and his lifestyle, then maybe you would see him as anything other than a baka. Sasuke stood from his seat. He lives in a shithole apartment where you live in a home with family. He and I are more alike than you could ever think, but you're too hung up on what you think I am that you don't see anything else around you besides me. Sasuke started for the stairs, looked back over his shoulder. Start learning to respect your teammate Sakura because he's obviously the strongest of the three of us. Kakashi watched Sasuke walk up the stairs while Sakura looked to her food. He's right, you know. Kakashi told the girl. I've made my screw-ups as well, Sakura. You and Sasuke are the only two that I've been training and I've just been pushing Naruto to the side. After this mission, Sakura, I'm calling in a team mission for us all. To look at the past and see just who our teammates really are. Sakura nodded as Kakashi stood and walked around the table. You've gotten stronger during this week, Sakura. If you want my opinion, I've always thought you would do well in medical and genjutsu. You're not a child anymore, you're an adult. It's time to let all those fairy tale dreams go and look for reality. Show Sasuke and Naruto that you can be just as strong as either of them and possibly even stronger. Sakura looked up to Kakashi and smiled slightly. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi smiled and walked away from the table, heading for his room. Naruto walked down the steps of Tazuna's house the next morning in full gear and hood up, his blue eyes glowing slightly from under the hood. He walked outside and spotted Kakashi and the rest of the team standing outside with Tazuna. Alright, we're all here. Kakashi announced and turned to Dekuro. If you need any assistance, just send a flare up and Naruto or I will rush right over. Dekuro nodded and turned to the three. Let's go. The two genin nodded and started to follow the man with Tazuna between them. Kakashi turned to Naruto. I know you wanted to go, but I need you here. Now, I'm gonna search the forest surrounding the house. I need you to stay here at the house and protect Tsunami and Inari from harm." Naruto looked up to the man and nodded. Kakashi turned and ran into the forest, while Naruto turned and headed for the back of the house to look around for anything out of the ordinary. Naruto was coming back to the front of the house when he heard crashing from the inside and Tsunami screaming from the kitchen. He silently snuck into the house and made his way to the kitchen. "So, this the broad the boss wanted us to grab, eh?" Naruto peered around the corner to see two men standing in the kitchen, cornering Tsunami against the wall. Naruto heard another pair of footsteps and saw Inari walking into the kitchen. "What happened, mom?" The boy screamed only for one of the thugs to knock him away. "Don't hurt him." The thug walked over to the boy and picked him up by the front of his shirt. "Hey, Gatu said he only wanted the bitch, right?" The other thug that wore an eye patch nodded. "Sure, do whatever you want. Besides, once Abusa and those Leaf Ninja are dead, the boss is gonna let us have fun with his apprentice too." "Stop. If you hurt him I'll bite off my tongue and drown in my own blood." The two turned back to the woman as Naruto clenched his fists in anger. This ends now. Naruto pulled out two kunai and let them fly as he entered the kitchen. The two kunai found their mark, one in each man's head, and Naruto watched as they fell to the floor. A fast set of footsteps from behind showed the entry of Kakashi with a drawn kunai. "You alright?" Naruto nodded and started for the door. "I'm heading for the bridge." Naruto called over his shoulder only for Kakashi to place a hand on his shoulder. "Naruto, I need you here. Datu sent these two. He plans on betraying Zabuza and Haku. I'm not going to let that stand." Naruto shrugged the man's hand away and ran for the bridge. Kakashi cursed as he watched the cloaked blonde vanish into the woods. "This fog is really thick." Tazuna spoke as they walked onto the building side of the bridge. The group of three stopped in their tracks as some of the mist cleared away to show seven Zabuzas standing around them. "Good of you to arrive, Dekuro. Where's Kakashi and the brat?" Dekuro sighed. "They're dealing with Tazuna's family. I have an offer for the two of you, Zabuza." The man chuckled from the mist as his clones reached for their Zambatus. Dekuro sighed and nodded. "Do it." Sasuke smirked and vanished in a burst of speed, appearing in his original spot seconds later as the clones exploded into water. "Looks like you might have a rival, Haku." The mist completely vanished and Zabuza dropped down to the bridge from his hiding spot with Haku. "Possible, however, I believe the blonde." "Let's cut to the chase, Zabuza." Dekuro cut the hunter off. "I'm offering both you and Haku here a chance to join Konoha under our protection. If the Hokage refuses to allow you to join our ranks, I personally will escort you to whichever border you wish. No strings." Zabuza chuckled and shook his head. "Sorry, Haddock, but that sounds loaded to me." "Haku, take the kids." "I'll take Haddock." The hunter nodded and rushed at the two genin the same time Zabuza rushed Dekuro. "Very well." Dekuro muttered and drew his sword as he countered Zabuza's rush. "Then you shall learn the legend of the White Skull." The two met with a clash of steel, and Zabuza watched with wide eyes as white chakra started to cover Dekuro's face and shape into a white skull. "Are you ready for your grave, Zabuza?" The Jonin's voice had become darker and more of a growl. Dekuro pushed the man away, breaking the lock the two had from a clash of blades. The Jonin slashed at the man, and Zabuza jumped back to avoid a blade of white chakra to cut into the spot where he once stood. "You manipulate your chakra into a blade that can be launched from your sword." Dekuro's skull-covered face smirked evilly as white chakra covered both his arms and his sword. "You'll just have to find out." Dekuro spun and brought his empty hand up in an arch slash, sending another blade sailing towards the man. Zabuza cursed and rolled to the side, forming seals for a jutsu. "Ninja art, don't think so." The man went wide-eyed as a kick from behind sent him sailing forward. Dekuro rushed the man once again, sword ready when a second Zabuza appeared and brought its sword down on the man. The smirk on Dekuro's skull widened as he rolled out of the way. He rose his empty left hand and brought it down in a slash before rushing the clone. The clone rolled out of the way of the white blade of chakra only for a ninja to be stabbed through its head. "Ninja art. Hit and miss jutsu." The smirk died and turned into a frown. "Now where's the fun in that, Zabuza? What's he planning?" Dekuro looked around for the man, his sight hindered by the mist. His warning sense went off and he rolled to the side as a large sword was brought down where he stood. He stood up in a defensive stance and saw Zabuza's eyes glaring at him as he hoisted the sword back onto his back. He silently vanished into the mist, Dekuro looking around for him. "You seem to forget, Haddock, that I'm also a master of the silent killing technique." "Well, this mist does hinder my sight as well. I still have other senses that can be used against you. Now, where do I strike?" Dekuro's white skull smirked a bit. "Ooh, you actually made this a challenge then. Well, then Zabuza, let's see what you can do." The man vanished in a swirl of mist just as a group of shuriken passed through where his body would have been. Dekuro appeared on one of the high-up support beams and looked down on the mist-covered bridge. "Where are you?" He vanished once again when another barrage of shuriken left the mist and headed for him. He reappeared higher up and looked around the bridge. Alright, from what I can sense, Sakura is with Tazuna. Sasuke is shit, he must be in that dome the girl made. Ice jutsu huh? Takuro sighed and looked to support tower, seeing how far it went up. I guess that could work. Takuro jumped higher up to the top of the tower and looked down to the mist. Haddock high jutsu. White blade barrage. Takuro rose his sword and started to slash all over the place, careful not to send any blades towards Sakura and Tazuna. After the 50th slash he rose his sword above his head and started to spin it before slashing downward on last time. Where did he vanish to this oh shit? Zabuza cursed out loud as he started to weave in and out of the falling blades of white chakra. He's must be pretty high up to be able to have these things rain down like this. Zabuza cursed as a blade managed to nick his arm, leaving a semi-deep cut on his upper arm. He growled as he sensed a massive source of chakra falling right on top of him. He growled as he used the shunshin to avoid it. Time to end this. Zabuza inwardly growled to himself as he made his way to Sakura and Tazuna. Where is he now? Takuro looked down on the battlefield with his skull-cover face and narrowed his eyes as he looked to where Sakura and Tazuna were. The client. Takuro vanished from his spot and appeared just in time to deflect Zabuza's sword from cutting the two in half, while the Mist Ninja's sword managed to cut into Takuro's forearm. Zabuza smirked under his mask and vanished into the mist again. Takuro-sensei. Are you alright? Sakura asked the man as she watched the blood flow from the man's arm. Takuro nodded, the skull on his face a serious stare as it gazed into the mist. I'm fine. Be ready to perform that earth jutsu I taught you at any time. Sakura nodded as Takuro looked to his arm with a frown. He actually managed to get me. The first since Itachi. So, the great white skull of Konoha isn't the undead monster the rumors made you out to be. Zabuza's voice echoed from the mist. Well, that all depends on who's fighting me. Takuro frowned as he looked to the mist. This has gone on long enough. Takuro pulled out a scroll and wiped his blood on the inside after he opened it. I'm sorry, Zabuza, but this has to come to an end. The Jonin rolled the scroll shut with a snap and ran through seals with it still in his hands. Earth style. Fang pursuit jutsu. Sasuke didn't know what the hell was wrong. First he was fighting against a hunter ninja on pretty much equal grounds when she pulled this ice mirror dome trick. Then he started to get littered with senbon. After several waves, he noticed that he was starting to see her movements clearer and clearer with each wave. Damn it. How could I have fallen for this trap? Are you ready to surrender? Haku's reflection could be seen in all of the mirrors. Sasuke growled and ran through the seals for a fire jutsu. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. Sasuke took a deep breath and blew out a giant fireball at the nearest mirror. The fireball connected with the ice mirror, but the mirror held strong. Once the jutsu ended, Sasuke glared at the still standing ice mirror. Normally, you would be correct in using fire against my ice. However, as long as there is water in the air my mirrors will continuously mend themselves. Haku called from one of the mirrors and launched from it, starting another barrage of senbon at the boy. Once the attack on him ended, Sasuke was left panting and looking around the dome with crimson red eyes. Damn it. She's too fast, and with all these reflections and mirrors, there's no telling where she'll strike from next. Sasuke-kun, catch. Sasuke looked outside the dome for the voice to see Sakura throwing a kunai towards him. That won't help you. Haku announced as she came out of a nearby mirror and caught the kunai. I guess it's time. A shuriken cut off Haku as it slashed into her mask and made her fall from her mirror. Sasuke felt someone grab onto his shirt and suddenly found himself being thrown out of the dome. Your fight is with me, Haku. The female hunter stood to her feet and turned to the inside of the dome. Sasuke and Sakura looked at the blonde as Haku clenched her fists. I told you not to come here. Naruto nodded. So you did, but I need you to listen to me. Haku narrowed her eyes behind her mask as she re-entered her mirror dome to stand across from Naruto. And why should I? Because Gato plans to betray you both. He sent a couple of thugs to Tazuna's to kidnap his daughter as a hostage. He's most likely on his way now. Haku shook her head as her mirrors shattered. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but I'm afraid I can't go against Zabuza-sama. 1,000 needles of death. Naruto sped through seals as the senbon formed and flew at him. Water style. Water wall. The mist gathered around Naruto and created a wall as Haku ran through her own seals. The senbon met with the wall and melted into their base state as Naruto noticed the wall stop rotating and start to freeze. Ice style. Ice prison jutsu. Naruto growled and jumped up and through the closing exit. He landed on top of the prison and shot towards the masked ninja. Just stop it. Naruto yelled out as he drew his sword, Haku holding out a hand as a sword of ice formed. You know I can't. Ice style. Ice brand. The two swords met and Naruto gritted his teeth as he pushed off the girl's sword. You've learned a lot from that scroll I gave you. Haku nodded. And I thank you. Haku rushed at the boy and Naruto brought his sword up to block the downward cut. But that doesn't change anything. Naruto pushed the girl off and kicked out with his knee, catching her in the gut. Why won't you listen? Naruto growled as Haku got to her feet and lifted the sword above her head. Genjutsu. Wind style. Sonic razor. Naruto watched as Haku brought her sword down in an arch and a blade of wind raced towards him, tearing the concrete of the bridge up. Naruto cursed and dove out of the way before rolling once more from a wave of senbon. Naruto used a roll to get back to his feet and rushed the girl. Listen to me. Why oh why did I teach her the shadow clone jutsu? Naruto shouted at the girl as the two met with a clash of blades. Naruto growled as he broke the standstill and used a leg sweep on Haku, only for the girl to jump out of the way. Naruto drew two kunai and tossed them at her mid-air form. Ice shell jutsu. Haku yelled out and a shell of ice surrounded her, taking the impact from the kunai. The dome shattered and the girl was nowhere to be found. Damn, where is she? Naruto looked around, finding nothing when his danger senses from years of abuse kicked in and he rolled backwards, avoiding a rain of large icicles. He grunted in pain when he felt the cold blade of Haku's sword stab his left arm. But I was aiming for his heart. Why did I change? Haku wondered, her brown eyes glaring into Naruto's own, her mask having shattered at some point during the fight. Hey, the mist is clearing. Sakura called out as Sasuke's Sharingan eyes scanned through the mist. Haku's eyes left Naruto's and looked to the direction of Zabuza to see him pinned to his spot by a large group of dogs. Naruto grabbed Haku's arm and drew her in closer only to kick her away, her sword being ripped from his arm and her hand. Naruto walked over to her only to watch her form a mirror. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. She whispered and vanished into the mirror. Naruto turned to Takuro and cursed, rushing to stop the man from slaying both of the ninja. Any last requests? My offer still stands, Zabuza. Takuro asked as he sheathed his sword and covered his right arm in chakra. Zabuza narrowed his eyes at the man making the skull-faced Jonin frown. Very well, as you wish. Hai jutsu. White-handed knife. Zabuza watched as Takuro's hand became entirely white. The man drew his hand back and rushed at him, intending to end it in one blow. Stop. Naruto cried out and the man closed his eyes as he stabbed forward. Ice shell jutsu. Haku cried as soon as she exited the mirror and stood in front of Zabuza, the Miss Jonin's eyes as wide as plates as the shell formed over her. Takuro snapped his eyes open as the sound of shattering ice met his ears and his hand stopped after losing the chakra built up right in Haku's chest, a quarter of his hand inside the girl's body. Zabuza felt the stinging bite of the dogs that held him down vanish and watched as Naruto pushed the man out of the way. God damn it. The blonde yelled, dropping his sword to the ground and catching the girl as she fell. Why didn't you just fucking listen to me? Naruto growled to her as she heaved, trying to breath. Your job was over the moment I told you about Gatu's plan. Zabuza looked to the kid with a raised brow when his eyes went wide and his senses screaming at him. Move. Zabuza tackled the kid away as several arrows landed right where the men's heads would have been and Haku fall to the ground. The entire group of shinobi looked to the end of the bridge to see Gatu and a group of thugs standing near the edge of the incomplete bridge. Ah, so the demon of the mist is nothing but a baby. How sad. Gatu moved forward to the barely alive Haku and snarled at her. I owe you for breaking my wrist. Gatu drew his foot back and kicked the girl in the right side of her chest, causing her to gasp for air in even more pain as her wound bled out. Too bad you're dying, bitch. I was going to train you as my personal slave. Naruto and Zabuza stood to their feet as Gatu looked to them and Takuro was met by Sakura and Sasuke. Gatu, what's the meaning of this? Zabuza growled as the man smirked to him. You ninja are so expensive you know. Always asking for the highest you can. For a quarter of your price I could get twice this many henchmen. Gatu pointed his thumb over his shoulder at the group of thugs. Ah, but that's just the topping of my little cake. You see, I came to acquire some special creatures that will be taking care of you today. Now, enjoy your last moments. Gatu turned and started back for his boat. Raise the cage and let him loose. Gatu shouted and one of the men pressed a button, everyone watching as a large cargo crate rose at the end of the bridge and settled onto the bridge. Naruto picked up the sounds of howls and barking coming from the cage. Gatu was soon standing on the top of the crate and smirked at the ninja as the door opened. Oh my little razor wolves. Kill them. In the trees a pair of eyes widened as 10 blue blurs shot out of the crate and at Haku. Those are supposed to be extinct. Water style. Water dragon jutsu. Zabuza called out and the dragon shot forward as soon as it formed. The dragon roared as it smashed into one of the blurs just before it reached Haku. Pushing chakra into the dragon, he turned its path to circle the girl. Water style. Water wall. The dragon roared one last time before turning into a giant wall, stopping the group of blurs from advancing. Takuro drew his sword and channeled his clan's special chakra into his blade. This might not end well. The skull-faced man muttered and vanished, reappearing in front of the downed body before taking a stance. Someone, come up and grab the girl. Zabuza and I will take care of these things for the moment. Naruto looked to Sasuke and Sakura. Who's in? Sasuke smirked as he drew a kunai and flashed his Sharingan. Let's go. Sakura cracked her knuckles as Naruto looked at Izuna. He created 3 clones and had them surround him. "They'll take you home. Kakashi should still be there." Naruto called out and turned to the group of blurs that now stood before Zabuza and Dekuro. The creatures that Gato called razor wolves were the same height as a full-grown wolf. Their heads were more pointed than a normal animal's, and each of them were bearing their very sharp teeth. They each stood on their larger back legs, while the front paws were acting more like hands. The creatures' eyes were all red, and their back fur was standing up like spikes. One of the wolves howled and tucked itself into a tight ball before starting to spin, picking up speed and concrete as it spun. The wolf launched itself at the 2 jonin with speed unheard of in a wolf. "Dekuro? Yes. I think I'll take you up on that offer." Zabuza growled as he brought his sword down on the approaching wolf and went wide-eyed as the spinning wolf and the mist ninja's blade came to a standstill. "These things, it's like they're armored." Zabuza watched as the speed of the spin died and made his move, swinging his massive cleaver downward, with chakra added to the blade. The massive sword cut right through the wolf as if it was nothing. Dekuro narrowed his eyes as a second wolf came running at them. He channeled his chakra into his sword and slashed just as the wolf reached him, the blade only cutting halfway through the creature's neck before it fell in a pool of blood. The other wolves growled and rushed at them just as Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura came up. Fire style. Dragon missile jutsu. Sasuke blew a dragon from his mouth just as Sakura finished her seals. Earth style. Mud wall. The girl slammed her hands to the bridge's concrete and watched as a wall rose up in the path of one of the spinning wolves. Water style. Water bullet jutsu. Naruto shot several bullets of water from his mouth. Fire style. Dragon flame bomb. A stream of fire joined the 3 attacks and drowned them out, bathing the wolves in nothing but fire. The team felt someone drop next to them, and everyone turned to see Kakashi with his Sharingan eye visible. "Sasuke, when you get the chance, take a look at your eyes." Sasuke smirked. "Too late." "Ooh well." The team turned and watched as the last 8 wolves stood burned, but still alive and more pissed than anything. "Ugh, what the hell is all that? What the fuck are those things doing still alive?" Naruto rolled his eyes as the wolves charged them. "Naruto, give me control. I can kill them all in one move." Naruto rolled to the side as a claw almost took his face clean off. Naruto looked to where Zabuza was still standing, determined to not let them near Haku. "Naruto." "Fine." Everything and everyone froze at the sudden explosion of killing intent from Naruto. The blonde's hair became wild, his eyes red with slit pupils, his hands became claws and his teeth fangs. "I'll send you back to hell." Pyro pillar. Naruto thrust a hand towards the group and everyone watched as 3 of the wolves became engulfed in a giant pillar of fire that rose into the sky for miles. Naruto turned to his left and glared at one that was rolling towards him. Flame. A fireball formed above Naruto's head and shot towards the incoming wolf, watching as the flame smashed into it and sent it flying off the edge of the bridge. "Look out." Kakashi shouted and started a line of seals. Chidori. Kakashi took off in a burst of speed and slammed his attack into the head of one of the wolves that were coming up behind Zabuza. "I owe you, Kakashi." Zabuza took out 2 kunai and tossed them behind the silver-haired jonin. The man heard the sound of flesh being penetrated and turned to find a wolf at his feet with 2 kunai in its own head. "I guess we're even." Kakashi looked at the last 2 wolves that stood together watching the fight. Naruto turned towards them and growled. Burning rain. Fire started to rain from the sky towards the 2 wolves and everyone watched as they took hit after hit. Once the barrage of falling fire ended, everyone looked to the end of the bridge to see Gato cowering at his spot on top of his cage. He said they couldn't be beaten. Gato mumbled to himself and turned to his men. "Kill them. Kill each and every one of them." The men nodded and started to move forward when another voice called out. "It seems you have made a grave mistake, Gato." A bolt of lightning struck the ground near Zabuza and Naruto narrowed his red eyes at the man. "You." The Magic Emperor chuckled evilly as he gazed at Naruto through his helmet before turning to Gato. "Ah, so you are in control, my dear. If I may ask, please return control to Naruto. I would hate to disrupt your power once again." The Emperor took a few steps forward. "Before any of you ask, I am called the Magic Emperor. Now, I believe you have interfered in my mission, Gato. I don't take lightly to such things. One of which is kicking a girl when she's down and dying. Especially when she's one of the 5. The man rose a hand to the sky. "Kiss your life goodbye, Gato, for it shall burn in the fires of hell." Inferno. Everyone went wide-eyed as a giant fireball started forming above the entire bridge. The fireball grew to a humongous size before Emperor swiftly brought his hand down and it started to rain fire towards Gato and his men. "No. Wait." Gato was struck with a massive fireball right in the chest. His suit caught fire and spread all over too quickly to be controlled. Gato's men all found themselves running for the edge of the bridge to escape only to fail as fireballs struck them. Once the last of the businessman's men fell in a burning heap, the Magic Emperor turned to Haku and Zabuza. He started to walk towards him only for him to be faced with the Kyuubi-controlled Naruto in his path, the sword of Althena in his hands. "What are you doing back? I thought we killed you." The Magic Emperor narrowed his eyes behind his mask. "Step aside, Lamina also, or I will remove you myself. I have a mission and you stopping me from reaching the girl will not be tolerated." Zabuza reached for his sword's handle. "What interest do you have in Haku?" The man looked to the Jonin and smirked. "The interest, Zabuza Mamachi, is that she is one of the 5 that has been chosen by the dragons. I cannot allow her to die, or I may end up having to wait for the next chosen one. And, knowing the luck that I have, given the last time I was revived, there will never be one. Now, step aside." Emperor pushed past Naruto and then stood before Zabuza. "I only intend to help her survive. Now move." Zabuza narrowed his eyes at the man but moved aside, letting the armored man kneel down to Haku's heavily breathing body. "The white dragon has indeed blessed you with his power, child. Your wound is hardly bleeding, but given time, you will die." Haku turned her head to the man's mask. "Lamina, bring the boy's body over here and give his control back." Lamina growled and walked over to the man, and everyone watched as Naruto's features turned to normal. "Child, you have seen me, correct?" Naruto looked to the man confusingly before his memory caught up with him. "You were in that dream." The masked man shook his head. "That was no dream, boy. That scroll you happened to open was a special one. It took you to the realm of the 5 dragons of Althena. They have long since passed from this world due to a dark god wanting to destroy the world. Their blood lives on in 5 different people. However, I know not who they are. Now, allow me to see that scroll once again." Naruto pulled out his master scroll and unsealed the scroll the emperor was asking for. "Blue dragon of Althena, I seek your aid. Grant me the ability of your magic so that I may save the white heir." The scroll started to gain a faint blue color when a blue dragon's head emerged from the scroll. "Be grateful, Magic Emperor, that I have forgiven you for your misdeeds you have committed against me and my kin. Very well, you may have the power of the blue dragon to heal the child. But I warn you, Emperor, if any one of the 5 die, including our chosen Dragon Master, then all will be lost. Guide Dragon Master Naruto well, or all will be lost with Soffer's 4th rebirth." Everyone watched as the head and glow faded and a small object fell to the concrete of the bridge. Emperor picked it up, held it over Haku and started to concentrate. "Blue dragon healing." The crest in the man's gauntlet-covered hand glowed a bright blue when the transparent image of a giant dragon with blue fur and rainbow-color wings appeared and roared before bursting into small particles of light. The light shot into Haku, and the girl gasped as she felt energy flow through her body, the stab wound healing before everyone's eyes, not leaving any trace of the wound. The crest in the Magic Emperor's hand cracked and finally shattered to dust. The man stood and started to walk away from the group. "My task for now is complete. Take care of each other, Naruto, Haku. I'll be watching over you until we meet again." The man's body started to blink before he turned into a purple ball of energy and shot off into the sky. Zabuza turned to Haku and helped her to her feet. "Are you alright?" Haku nodded, looking over her body for anything abnormal. "I feel great. Like I just woke up from a good night's sleep, Zabuza-sama." Zabuza shook his head. "Stop calling me that, Haku. You're not a tool." Haku opened her mouth, but Zabuza held a hand up. "I know, I raised you to think that's all we are, but we're not. I made a grave mistake in raising you, Haku. You had your first kills at 4 and I was only looking at taking back the hidden mist from a corrupt Mizukage. Raising you has changed me, Haku. Besides, I'm looking at a goal that will most likely get me killed and you're following me blindly, doing whatever you're told. When I saw you come back from your meetings with a little brat here," Zabuza nodded his head at Naruto, "I saw something that wasn't natural for you. I saw you truly happy for the first time since I took you in." Zabuza placed a hand on her shoulder. "Time for you to do your own thing, Haku. Be your own master. As for me, well, I hear the Hokage is a kind old man." Dekuro, who had stopped the chakra flow to his face as soon as the emperor left, I smiled under his mask. "I don't know where you want to go or what you want to do, Haku, but just know that you've been the daughter I've never had. The one I almost had." Haku's eyes started to get misty as Zabuza looked to Kakashi. "So the deal's still standing, right?" Kakashi I smiled as he lowered his headband. "Of course. However, we'll be here for a while. After all, we did say we'd stay until the bridge is complete and with all the damage done to the bridge, I think it's going to be longer than we thought." Zabuza nodded. "Well, then I suggest we head to the old man's house to let him know that Gatu's dead and he has no need to." "What the hell have you done to my bridge?" Everyone turned to see Tazuna standing on the bridge, gaping at the damage that has been done. Behind him, a large mob of villagers stood there. Kakashi and Dekuro looked to each other. "He did it." The two pointed to each other and yelled at the same time while Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura just sweat dropped. "What the hell do you mean Kakashi did it, Dekuro? You were the one that was making it rain white chakra blades." Dekuro hung his head as Zabuza smirked at the man. Anyway, I have an old man to apologize to. Come on, Haku. Right to-san. Zabuza stopped in his tracks and looked over his shoulder at the girl. You sure you want me for a parent? My hands are too stained with blood. Haku smiled. You raised me, trained me and never have you done anything against me. Zabuza nodded and the two started walking towards Tazuna. The old man started to sweat bullets as the Jonin and hunter walked up to him. The two stopped before him and Zabuza frowned at the angry villagers behind him. Look, old man. I know we tried to kill you and all, but it's over with now. You don't have to worry about Gatu anymore since he got fried literally. Haku and I, well, we're sorry about all this. The old man blinked for a few seconds before smiling. Well then, you can repay me and my country by helping me repair and finish this bridge. Oh, that goes for you, Leaf Ninja too. Zabuza smirked under his bandages as Kakashi and Dekuro nodded. We'll be glad to, Tazuna will be glad to. Kakashi called back and looked over his shoulder at the team. Well, team, let's head back to Tazuna's and take a well-deserved rest. Tomorrow, we help Tazuna with his bridge building and I'll even make it out to be a form of training. The three genin nodded and followed their sensei and Dekuro up to where Zabuza and Haku were talking with some of the villagers. Old man Saratobi sat at his desk, fighting his and every other cage's worst enemy, paperwork, when a popping sound rang through the room. He looked up from the document he was reading and frowned when he met face to face with a small pug. Pakin, how nice to see you. I hope everything is alright with Kakashi and his team. Pakin nodded. Everything going well. Anyway, I have a letter here from Dekuro and Kakashi. They need a reply ASAP. The Hokage noticed the scroll tied to the pug's back and took it off the dog. He opened and started to read it, his frown growing more and more concerned before splitting into a shit-eating grin. He looked at the pug with that same grin. Tell Kakashi and Dekuro that I will hear Zabuza and his daughter out once they arrive here in Konoha. Also, let Kakashi know that I will have what he's asking for ready and waiting once his team reports in and that I'll be waiting at the gates the day of their return. However, I need an hour's warning before they reach the gates. The pug nodded. I'll do that. But before I go, the Hokage looked at the pug with a raised brow. Would you like to shake my paw? The old man vaulted face first onto his desk. The old man looked up and glared at the pug. Please just deliver the message. The pug sighed and vanished from the office. Saratobi leaned back in his chair and smirked. It's good to see that Kakashi is asking for Dekuro to stay with the team as a co-sensei. And one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist joining our ranks would be a great addition to our forces. I just wonder what Kakashi meant when he said a new bloodline may be joining Konoha as well, but to keep it under wraps. It seems I will have to ask him upon their return. A loud roar filled the sky, and the Hokage looked out of his window to see a transparent figure fly to the north, a mixture of white and brown fur. Strange for a moment, that almost looked like a dragon. What if Naruto has dragon weapon chunin exams? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.